This group has been evolving to be a geopolitical bloc. We're speaking about the BRICS. For that reason, that from 2009 forwards, the bloc has multilateral meetings every year based on the idea of non-interference, equality, and mutual benefit that all of the parties share. Together, the member countries of the BRICS are about 30% of the Earth's surface, 45% of the world's population, and about 35% of the world's GDP in terms of PPP. Among its greatest achievements are the creation of the new development bank and the contingency reserve agreement, and their participation in production change such as manufacturing, services, and infrastructure. In light of this, our country has not been alien to this, but quite the contrary. Peru has shown a great interest in this bloc and, for example, through its active participation in the International Municipal Forum of the BRICS, which has been an open space for taking up various aspects of development of modern cities and the formats of cooperation among the BRICS nations and their partners. In the framework of the presidency of BRICS, which this year belongs to Russia, we express great appreciation for the organizers of this event, since they are the Embassy of Russia in Peru, the Peru Schiller Institute, the National Major University of San Marcos, the San Marcos Foundation, and the Center of Asian Studies of this university. Likewise, we would like to express our great appreciation for the sous Sherpa of Russia to the BRICS, as well as former Ambassador Kapunai, as well as the Ambassador of Russia, Brazil, China, Egypt, South Africa, as well as their respective diplomatic representations. We appreciate their participation and their help in bringing this event about. He is now stating greetings in each of the languages. To all, we wish you a good day. We welcome you, and we thank you for making this event a reality.
Bueno, y a continuación vamos a dar pase.
Next, we will go the Marinela Elenco of the Folklore School of the San Marcos University. This was founded in 2009, and we will see Peru's national dance, which is an artistic and dance synthesis of the Indian, the Black, and the Spanish cultural influences in our country. On this occasion, music was written in homage for our university. A round of applause, please.
segunda. Marinera norteña, señores. Y que se escuchen las palmas arriba.
Seguidamente, escucharemos las
Next,
palabras de
we will hear from His Excellency Ambassador at Large Pavel Knyazev, the Russian sous-sherpa for the BRICS.
Dear colleagues, it's a pleasure welcoming you all from Moscow. The theme of the conference, BRICS countries' development strategies and cooperation mechanisms in the emerging multipolar world, is of a particular interest as the world is going through dramatic changes and defines the principles of coexistence for years to come. The world is facing tectonic changes. New centers of influence emerge, economic activities shifting to Asia, Africa, Latin America, and other regions of the world. Those trends are legitimate and irreversible. They lead to the formation of new mechanisms and bodies willing to step in and to contribute to the global decision-making processes, seeking solutions to the existing and emerging global and regional challenges. BRICS is among them, with Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, countries with serious economic potential, rich history and culture, significant players in the regional and international arena. Joining BRICS, the group increased its economic potential and turned into one of the key centers of influence, becoming much more global. In a new, expanded configuration, BRICS occupies over 30% of the land and hosts 45% of the world population, 3.6 billion people. According to the IMF, by the end of 2024, BRICS' share in the world GDP based on purchasing power parity will exceed 36%. The growth rates will reach 4.6%, which is almost 1.4 percentage points above the world's 3.2% average, not to mention the G7 countries' 1.7%. Moreover, member states provide over 40% of the total oil production and about a quarter of the world export of goods. Economic, technological, and human potential of the BRICS countries serves as a good foundation for the increase of their role in the global governance system. The motto chosen for this year under Russia's chairship in BRICS is strengthening multilateralism for the just global development and security. It reflects our intentions to further deepen our cooperation in all dimensions: politics and security, economics and finance, and humanitarian contexts, and expand group's capabilities in promoting a more democratic and equitable world order, as well as its status as an organizing structure for the Global South. Dedicated to this purpose, we organized special sessions for the like-minded countries during the meetings of Foreign Affairs and International Relations Ministers in June, and high-ranking officials responsible for security matters, national security advisors of BRICS countries, in September. The discussions within BRICS, as well as with our partners from the Global South, revealed a common understanding of the imperative of multipolarity and the reform of the global governance system for making it to be much more representative, with a stronger voice of developing countries in political, trade, economic, and financial processes. We are now approaching the apogee of our chairship in BRICS. Almost 200 events have been held so far. The main event of the year, the 16th BRICS Summit, to be held in Kazan on 22-24 October, will take stock of what has been done during the year on all tracks of cooperation and determine further steps for deepening our cooperation and interaction with the Global South. Special session, Outreach BRICS Plus, for continuing dialogue with the like-minded developing countries representing Global South and chairing regional integration organizations, is also scheduled during BRICS leaders meeting. BRICS countries are also committed to put effort into gradual improvement of the current situation in global economy and finance through increasing the use of national currencies in bilateral trade and investments, and developing independent and secure financial instruments and mechanisms. This year, we have launched a transfer track to assist creation of stable and sustainable production and delivery chains. Russia has also initiated a dialogue on cooperation between special economic zones and BRICS. It is clear that above-mentioned tasks could not be fulfilled within a day or even a year. They are of a strategic nature and receive more and more support among countries of the global majority. But there are forces that oppose any changes. Under the cover of the common good, they do nothing but increase international tensions, use political and economic sanctions, limit access to technologies, research and development outcomes, divide the world under the ideological pretext with the only goal to restrain sovereign development of the competitors and preserve the control over the decision-making process in international governing structures. However, we want to work and not just talk about creating conditions for sustainable development for everyone. We need to collaborate. That's what we do in BRICS. In the long run, our efforts are aimed at building a global cooperation network on top of the existing dividing axis, north-south or west-east. BRICS is a flexible format that adapts with the time passing, responds to practical needs, is focused on assisting the inclusive global development and seeking solutions for common challenges. Our cooperation is built on the principles of equality and mutual respect, as well as on openness and solidarity. Decisions result from the comprehensive discussions and are based on consensus. Such an approach reflects aspirations of developing countries of a more just multipolar world and generates more and more interest within the developing world. More than 30 states have expressed their desire to strengthen cooperation with BRICS to this or that extent, and the group itself is being regarded more distinctively as one of the pillars of the modern world order. I wish all the participants of the conference fruitful and thought-provoking discussions, and look forward to fresh and deep ideas as an outcome of today's conference. Thank you for your attention.
A continuación, me
Next,
permito invitar aquí
I
al
would like to invite to join us up front His Excellency, the Ambassador of the Russian Federation to Peru, Mr. Igor Romanchenko. Ambassador.
Igualmente, invitamos al frente
I
al
would like to
excelentísimo
also invite the former Peruvian ambassador to China, Mr. Carlos Capuñay, to join us at the podium up front.
A continuación, vamos a iniciar con el primer panel.
We will begin with the first panel, which involves the ambassadors. We would first like to welcome His Excellency, the Ambassador of the Russian Federation in Peru, Mr. Igor Romanchenko, to address a few words to us.
Excelentísimos señores embajadores de los países
Your
BRICS,
Excellencies of the BRICS countries, professors, students, visitors of the National Major University of San Marcos, I am pleased to greet you at this conference, which is unique in all of the Latin American region, on the subject of BRICS, with the participation of the ambassadors of the majority of the countries that are part of this association, as well as the presence of international experts and representatives of non-governmental organizations that are relevant to the current agenda. Carrying out a scientific event such as this during the presidency of Russia of the BRICS has become already a good tradition in the framework of our relationship of cooperation, which we have had over the long term with the universities of the Americas, and we appreciate the Chancellor of the University for her generous help to allow us to jointly organize this event. And we also appreciate the presence of those others who we have invited. First, let me mention the history of the creation of the BRICS, which is the period in which new centers of influence were joined around the idea of creating a multipolar world order, democratization of the international institutions, reconfiguring the financial architecture worldwide, and a more active participation and an equal one and worthy one in global governance. In 2006, based on the initiative of President Vladimir Putin of Russia, we first had a format of 4 countries and had a meeting of the foreign ministers of the countries of Brazil, Russia, India, and China in the framework of the General Assembly of the United Nations. 2 years later, during the summit of the Ayacucho Group, we had a meeting of the leaders of our countries. And in 2009, we held a summit meeting in a full format in 2011. South Africa joined the group, and this became known as BRICS. From the first summit of the BRICS, we have moved from being a group of shared interests to become a structure of strategic cooperation in a multifaceted way that is flexible and in terms of adapting to the conditions and different crises that face us. Over the course of the years, the BRICS have established an institutional framework on multiple levels, which are capable of resolving rapidly and effectively different kinds of problems, to hold yearly summits, conferences. We have a parliamentary forum. We have meetings of representatives of entities based on national security, chambers of commerce, research organizations, and meetings of youth and others. The financial base of the BRICS countries is the new development bank, which was established in 2015, based in Shanghai, and the contingency reserve agreement, which is also part of the BRICS apparatus. Since 2017, there has been a network of universities, and these are good examples of achievements of the BRICS. There is a BRICS Center for Research and Development of Vaccines. We have started practical implementation of cooperation agreements on the platform of satellites for detection of processes on Earth, and we've had a framework for cooperation in the area of digital economy. The growing weight of the BRICS countries in world politics and their successes in economic areas and scientific and technical areas speak for themselves with regard to the potential that our states have that are capable of reforming the global agenda. Likewise, we are acting as a kind of spokesman for the developing sector of the world, protecting the interests of the majority, the global majority, and making a significant contribution to the formation of a more equitable model on a world scale. For that reason, we are greatly interested, and we see great interest from civil society in Peru, and to have a format of interaction along the lines proposed by BRICS. We are trying to find solutions that are effective and equitable to the crucial problems of development. I would like to emphasize that the greater strengthening of cooperation with the countries of the South is among the priorities of Russia's presidency of the BRICS. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that this academic event today will be of interest and useful for all of you. Thank you very much.
Спасибо за ваши мудрые слова, уважаемый посол Романченко. Muchas gracias por sus sabias
Thank
palabras,
you
estimado
for your
embajador.
wise words, Your Excellency.
A continuación,
Next,
daremos la palabra al
we will
excelentísimo
ask
embajador de la República
His
de
Excellency,
Brasil, Clemente
the
Baena
Ambassador of the Republic of Brazil, Clemente Baena Soares.
Lleno, muy bien. El auditorio, muy bien.
The auditorium is full. That's great.
Bueno, buenos días.
Well, good afternoon.
Todas y a todos.
Greetings to all of you.
Señora rectora de la Universidad
The
Nacional Mayor
distinguished Chancellor of the National Major University of San Marcos, Dr. Jerry Rufner, dear colleagues of ambassadors of Russia, China, Egypt, and India. It's a pleasure to know you, get to know you all. Ladies and gentlemen, students, professors, I would like to thank the Russian Embassy, the National Major University of San Marcos, and its Center of Asian Studies, to the Schiller Institute of Peru, and the San Marcos Foundation for this invitation to participate in this very opportune international conversation on the BRICS. 20 years ago, a group such as the BRICS would have been considered as an abstract idea, as an aspiration, as a dream of the emerging markets and of countries to be able to have something beyond what the existing multilateral organization and institution had created in the post-war period. Many did not believe that such an initiative with such different, distinct countries, so asymmetric countries, could possibly be successful. Little could they imagine that we would be here today at a traditional university, and a prestigious one in Peru, precisely to be able to share the innovative experiences of that grouping, The relevance of the BRICS has been confirmed by the growing interest that other countries have shown in this matter. Today, the BRICS is no longer just an acronym. It is rather a palpable reality on the international scene.
In
a transitional moment such as the current one, Brazil believes that the grouping is an important platform for cooperation and that it can be a source of creative solutions to the problems we face. We have already gone through a long process since the first meetings, as the ambassador stated, from the meeting in 2006 at the General Assembly at the United Nations. We have achieved maturity and we cooperate in more than 30 areas of the international agenda, such as energy, agriculture, health, finances, commerce, science and technology, among others. We are producing concrete results for the populations of the member nations and beyond that for other countries in development through the new development bank and in the defense of multilateral organizations that are most representative for the global south, including the reform of international financial organizations and of the United Nations. BRICS has shown that the diversity of the groups, far from hurting its function, have contributed to the creation of a new world economic order, which will allow for economic, political, and strategic multipolarity in the current world. BRICS at the summit in Johannesburg last year increased its geographic representation even more to work with an idea towards improving the functioning of governing institutions international and to lead the struggle against hunger and poverty. These are subjects which are also fundamental not only for Brazil, but they are also for Peru and other countries in the developing sector. I would like to congratulate the presidency of Russia this year for the preparation of its more than 200 meetings of the group over the course of this year, and we hope that there will be further fruitful discussions at the Kazan summit later this month. In 2025, Brazil will be honored to be in charge of the pro tempore presidency of the BRICS, and we will take advantage of that opportunity to continue encouraging cooperation of the global south to be able to have a more inclusive and more sustainable governance. Brazil reiterates its commitment to continuing to move forward with the countries of the BRICS and also with our brother country, Peru. Thank you very much, and we wish you the best success.
Muito obrigado por suas palavras, excelentíssimo embaixador.
Thank you very much for your words, and we appreciate your contribution. Next, I would like to ask you all to please stand to welcome our distinguished guests. First of all, the Chancellor of the National Major University of San Marcos, Dr. Jerry Ramon Rufner.
Quien nos acompaña también en la mesa de honor. Junto con ella también.
Along with her, we have Dr. Carlos Cabrera Carranza, the academic director of the doctoral program. Likewise, Congressman Roberto Sanchez, National Congressman of Peru, and the Dean of China University, Songyang Chun.
Muchas gracias a todos ellos.
Thank you to all of our distinguished guests.
A continuación, invitamos aquí al
Next, we
frente
invite at front Dr. Geraci Ramón Rufner, who is the Chancellor of the National Major University of San Marcos, to make some inaugural remarks.
Excelentísimo embajador de Rusia,
His Excellency, the Ambassador of Russia,
excelentísimos embajadores de
Your
Rusia,
Excellencies from Ambassadors of Russia, Brazil, China, India, and Egypt,
vicerrector académico de pregrado, doctor
the
Carlos
Vice Rector
Carranza,
of the graduate program, Dr. Carranza,
Carlos Capuñay,
Ambassador Carlos
miembros del
Capunay,
Consejo Consultivo de
members of the Consultative
Sun Juan
Board
Chu,
of Directors,
rector de la
Sun
Universidad
Wanchu of the
de
Hebei University, distinguished
internacionalistas,
international experts,
congresistas de la República,
congressmen of
apreciados
the
miembros
nation,
de la comunidad académica,
dear members of the academic community, and students.
hoy estoy emocionada de ver
Today,
la
I'm so
consistencia que hay en
excited
el
to
desarrollo
see
internacional, los
the
estrategia de
participation
desarrollo
we have today in this conference on the BRICS, development strategies and cooperation mechanisms in the multipolar world. In fact, to see the very great participation on a subject so important as this for me is of vital importance. I would also like to welcome the Dean of the Americas. We receive you with open arms at the National Major University of San Marcos. The BRICS strategy of development and cooperation mechanisms in the multiple world, we are gathered here with a common purpose to explore and understand the dynamics which are shaping the future of our countries in a world that is more and more complex and diverse. The BRICS, established first by BRICS, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have become crucial actors in the global economy. To the degree to which we are moving towards a multipolar world, it's essential that we understand not only the opportunities which that world presents, but also the challenges which we must, all other countries in the developing sector. Today, we have the opportunity to listen to individuals firsthand, as you have already heard, and will from experts who will provide their views of how to maximize the potential of such collaboration. This is a crucial moment. We have lived through pandemics, economic crises, social crises, political crises on a world scale. And this shows us that we, as an academic institution, must be involved in these discussions. We urge you to take maximum advantage of this opportunity. It is vital for each and every one of us. Ask all the questions you like, ask all the questions you want answers to about what we can do to be able to discover some tips that will help us develop and move forward in this world. Let us share ideas and let us build a constructive dialogue. Higher education is not just about acquiring information, education, but also to create leaders who are capable of critical thought and deal with an interconnected, complicated world. To carry out decent political activity. As a teacher, I would like to thank all of the participants who are here today and thank especially the Russian ambassador, who is the one who initiated this event, the one who was persistently each and every day working to find the proper dates and to have such a discussion. To all of the participants who are here today, and also to the organizers of this conference, I would like to thank you for your hard work to make of this event a reality. I'm sure that the discussions that we will carry out will not only improve our understanding of the BRICS, but will also inspire new initiatives of collaboration that will benefit our society. With no further preamble, I would like to thank all of you here today. Some visitors arrived at the last, a time, a space, a minute, a second, which is assigned to each activity. I would like to thank each and every one of you for carrying out this conference to discuss these cooperation mechanisms in the multipolar world. I wish you great success and that this whole event be productive and that it enrich all of us. Thank you very much.
Agradecemos a la doctora
We thank Dr. Heri Ramon Rufner, the Chancellor of the National Major University of San Marcos, who has honored us with her presence and shared some thoughts with us in her busy agenda. Thank you very much.
A continuación, seguimos con el panel de embajadores.
We continue with ambassadors' remarks. His Excellency, the of the Popular Republic of China, Song Yang. We invite him to come forward.
Excelentísima doctora Heri Ramon Rufner,
Chancellor Heri Ramon Rufner, the Chancellor of the National Major University of San Marcos, the Excellencies, the Ambassador at Large from Russia, Pavel Kyanev, the sous Sherpa of the BRICS for Russia, His Excellency, the Ambassador of Russia, of the Federative Republic of Brazil, and from Egypt, and from India, and from the Republic of South Africa, and in particular, Ambassador Arab Saudi. Dear BRICS experts, I would especially like to greet His Excellency Mr. Juan Carlos Caponay, ex-ambassador of Peru and China. I appreciate the participation of congressmen who are here, Mr. Roberto Sanchez and Congressman Alcaraz. I ask your apologies for not pronouncing Spanish very well. But an applause for all of these people.
欢迎河北外语大学孙建中校长到会。
And he greeted the Chinese representative in Chinese. We are with the president of the rector, the dean of the Hubei University from China, who surprised us with his presence. I was surprised as well. As countries that are members of the BRICS and of BRICS Plus, we still don't have a country that speaks Spanish. I am going to speak in English. With your permission, I will do so, and there will be interpretation into Spanish.
Mayor de San Marcos for the conference. I thank Ambassador Igor Romachenko and the Russian embassy for the thoughtful arrangements. The world has entered a new period of disorder and transformation, with various risks and challenges resonating, facing with major challenges unseen in the century. The BRICS countries are discussing cooperation plans and seeking peaceful solutions. Over the past 18 years, the BRICS mechanism has already adhered to the principles of openness, inclusiveness, and win-win cooperation, setting a standard for South-South cooperation. The BRICS countries have increasingly become a constructive force in maintaining world peace, promoting common development, enhancing global governance, and promoting the democratization of international relations. And their active, stabilizing, and positive role in international affairs has become more prominent. Last year, BRICS took a historic step of expansion, opening up a new chapter of the Global South seeking strength through unity. With growing appeal and inspiration, BRICS has further burnished its credentials. Upon expansion, BRICS countries account for nearly half of the global population and 1/5 of the global trade, and their total economic output has overtaken that of G7 in PPP terms. Looking ahead, it is important to fully leverage the strategic significance and political efforts for greater BRICS, uphold independence, solidarity, collaboration, and common development. We should act as practitioners of peaceful coexistence, builders of multilateralism, promoters of political solutions, and defenders of fairness and justice, protect the legitimate rights and interests of developing countries, and expand the development space for emerging markets, making it a new type of multilateral cooperation mechanism, with emerging markets and developing countries as the mainstay, and with an open, inclusive, and global-oriented outlook, making our contribution to an equal and orderly multipolar world and universally beneficial and inclusive economic globalization. Recently, a grand ceremony was held to award the national medals and honorary titles of the People's Republic of China. Ms. Dilma Rousseff former President of Brazil and President of the New Development Bank, was awarded the Friendship Medal. Foi condecorada a uma medalha de amistad. Ex-presidente do Brasil e presidente atual do Banco de
The ex-president of Brazil and the president of the National Development Bank was given this award.
Which also reflects the solidarity and deep friendship among the BRICS countries. As leading members of the Global South, China proposed, we should promote common security and strive for lasting peace. Humanity live in an inseparable community of security. No country has the right to manipulate the global security agenda or seek its own security at the expense of others. We should stay focused on development as a priority and remove hindrance to development. Development is an internal pursuit of humanity. BRICS should harness its strengths to drive development to the center of UN agenda, stay attentive to the difficulties facing developing countries, urge developed countries to honor their promises, and give a stronger boost to the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. It is important to keep in mind the urgent needs of developing countries in poverty reduction, development financing, energy and food security, and seize the opportunities presented by the technological revolution and industrial transformation to foster new drivers for high-quality development. We should follow true multilateralism and improve global governance. It is important that we firmly defend the international system with the UN and its core, uphold the purposes and principles of UN Charter, and reject a selective application of these purposes and principles. We should advance the reform of the international financial architecture, support countries of the South in participating fully in international economic decision-making, governance, and rules-making, and increase their voice and representation. From October 22 to 24 of this month, the BRICS Leaders Summit will be held in Kazan, Russia. This will be the first summit following the expansion of BRICS. All eyes will be on this highly significant meeting. China fully supports Russia's chairmanship, and is willing to work with other BRICS countries to deepen strategic communication, build broad consensus, and emit a strong voice for maintaining fairness and justice and promoting common development, striving for new milestone outcomes, and ensuring the greater BRICS cooperation up to a good step. Thank you for listening. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Bueno, ahora vamos a escuchar
We
la
will now
versión
hear
para todos.
the
Trabajando juntos por
translation
un
into
futuro brillante
Spanish,
para los BRICS.
read out
El
loud.
mundo ha entrado en un nuevo periodo de desorden y transformación, con diversos riesgos y desafíos, entrelazándose y resonando entre sí. Ante grandes cambios sin precedentes en un siglo, los países de BRICS están discutiendo planes de cooperación
The
y buscando
moderator is
soluciones
reading
pacíficas.
the same speech which you just heard in English.
El mecanismo
translated into Spanish.
Mantenido siempre los principios de apertura, inclusividad y cooperación ganar-ganar, estableciendo un estándar para la cooperación sur-sur. Los países de BRICS se han convertido cada vez más en una fuerza constructiva en el mantenimiento de la paz mundial, la promoción del desarrollo común, el fortalecimiento de la gobernanza global y la democratización de las relaciones internacionales, y su papel activo, estabilizador y positivo en los asuntos internacionales ha cobrado mayor protagonismo. El año pasado, BRICS dio un paso histórico hacia la expansión, abriendo un nuevo capítulo en el sur global, buscando fuerza a través de la unidad. Con una creciente atracción e inspiración, BRICS ha perfeccionado aún más sus credenciales. Tras la expansión, los países de BRICS representan casi la mitad de la población global y una quinta parte del comercio mundial, y su producción económica total ha superado a la del G7 en términos de paridad del poder adquisitivo. Mirando hacia el futuro, es importante aprovechar plenamente el significado estratégico y los efectos políticos de un BRICS más grande, mantener la independencia, la solidaridad, la colaboración y el desarrollo común. Debemos actuar como practicantes de la coexistencia pacífica, constructores del multilateralismo, promotores de soluciones políticas y defensores de la equidad y la justicia, protegiendo los derechos e intereses legítimos de los países en desarrollo y ampliando el espacio de desarrollo para los mercados emergentes. Debemos convertirnos en un nuevo tipo de mecanismo de cooperación multilateral con los mercados emergentes y los países en desarrollo como pilares con una perspectiva abierta, inclusiva y orientada a lo global, contribuyendo a un mundo multipolar, equitativo y ordenado, y a una globalización económica universalmente beneficiosa e inclusiva. Recientemente se llevó a cabo una gran ceremonia para otorgar las medallas nacionales y títulos honorarios de la República Popular China. La excelentísima doctora Dilma Rousseff, expresidenta de Brasil, presidenta del nuevo Banco de Desarrollo del BRICS, fue galardonada con la Medalla de la Amistad. Me gustaría extender mis más cálidas felicitaciones, lo que también refleja la solidaridad y la profunda amistad entre los países de BRICS. Como miembros líderes del sur global, China propone que debemos promover la seguridad común y esforzarnos por lograr una paz duradera. La humanidad vive en una comunidad de seguridad inseparable. Ningún país tiene el derecho de manipular la agenda de seguridad global o buscar su propia seguridad a expensas de otros. Debemos mantener el desarrollo como prioridad y eliminar los obstáculos al desarrollo. El desarrollo es una búsqueda eterna de la humanidad. BRICS debe aprovechar sus fortalezas para impulsar el desarrollo al centro de la agenda de la ONU, mantenerse atento a las dificultades que enfrentan los países en desarrollo, instar a los países desarrollados a cumplir sus promesas y dar un impulso más fuerte a la Agenda 2030 para el desarrollo sostenible. Es importante tener en cuenta las necesidades urgentes de los países en desarrollo en la reducción de la pobreza, el financiamiento del desarrollo y la seguridad energética y alimentaria, y aprovechar las oportunidades que representa la revolución tecnológica y la transformación industrial para fomentar nuevos impulsores para un desarrollo de alta calidad. Debemos seguir un verdadero multilateralismo y mejorar la gobernanza global. Es importante que defendamos firmemente el sistema internacional con la ONU en su núcleo, mantengamos los propósitos y principios de la Carta de la ONU y rechacemos una aplicación selectiva de esos propósitos y principios. Debemos avanzar en la reforma de la arquitectura financiera internacional, apoyar a los países del sur en su participación plena en la toma de decisiones económicas internacionales, la gobernanza y la elaboración de reglas y aumentar su voz y representación. Del 22 al 24 de octubre de este mes se celebrará la cumbre de líderes de BRICS en Kazán, Rusia. Esta será la primera cumbre tras la expansión de BRICS y todas las miradas estarán puestas en esta reunión de gran significado. China apoya plenamente la presidencia de Rusia y está dispuesta a trabajar con otros países de BRICS para profundizar la comunicación estratégica, construir un amplio consenso y emitir una fuerte voz en favor del mantenimiento de la equidad y la justicia y la promoción del desarrollo común, esforzándose por alcanzar nuevos resultados históricos y asegurando que la cooperación en el Gran BRICS comience de manera exitosa. Gracias por escuchar.
You've just heard the translation into Spanish of the speech that had just been delivered in English by the Chinese ambassador to Peru.
Muchas gracias por su valiosa
Thank you very
intervención,
much
señor
for
embajador
your
Song Yang.
contribution,
Mucho sus ideas
Ambassador
y sus
Song Yang.
contribuciones.
We appreciate your great
A
contribution and your
continuación,
ideas.
damos
Next,
ahora el pase al embajador
we
de la
are
República Árabe de
inviting
Egipto,
the
Ahmed Hamdi Bakr. Un aplauso, por
Ambassador
favor.
of Egypt, Ahmed Hamdi Bakr.
Muy buenos días.
Good morning.
Primero,
I would like, first of all, to thank the San Marcos University,
Schiller,
the Schiller Institute of Peru,
la Embajada de Rusia,
and the Embassy of the Russian Federation in Peru
invitarnos
for inviting us to make this presentation of our views on the subject of the BRICS. I would also like to greet all of the distinguished guests and congressmen, my colleagues, the ambassadors in Peru, who are at this very important event today. And I am going to continue in English.
Excellency, Dr. Jerry Ramon Rufner, Rector of the San Marcos University, Mrs. Helga Zepp-LaRouche, founder of the Schiller Institute, Excellencies, Ambassadors of BRICS, member countries, distinguished international and Peruvian experts, honorable guests. It is a pleasure to be here today and participate in this important and timely event. I would like to first express my gratitude to the University of San Marcos for hosting this gathering and to the Embassy of the Russian Federation in Peru and the Schiller Institute for organizing this crucial discussion on BRICS, particularly in light of its expanded membership. Egypt's official entry into BRICS at the beginning of this year marks a significant milestone in our membership with the group. This partnership, which has evolved over several years, is rooted not only in shared values and interests, but also in a forward-looking vision that recognizes the need for concerted cooperation to face future challenges. Egypt's invitation to join BRICS is a natural continuation of its interaction with the group, and it is reinforced by the strong and dynamic bilateral relations Egypt enjoys with each of its members. Our journey started with active participation in the BRICS Plus initiative in 2017, followed by joining the New Development Bank in 2021, culminating in our full membership today. We welcome our official membership with the belief that an expanded BRICS will be more effective in representing and amplifying its voice on the global stage. Egypt views BRICS not only as a tool for geopolitical rivalry or competition, but as a virtual platform for South-South cooperation, where the views and concerns of developing nations are heard and addressed. For Egypt, membership in BRICS reflects our deep commitment to multilateralism and international cooperation, rooted in the belief that collective work is essential to solving the complex challenges of today's world. The expansion of BRICS will further strengthen the group's ability to address the pressing issues facing the Global South, enhancing representation of the global stage and advocating a more just, inclusive, and equitable international order. The challenges we face today are multifaceted, cutting across political security and economic sectors. Throughout its engagement with BRICS, Egypt has highlighted several key priorities, including tackling food insecurity, promoting the reform of international economic and financial frameworks, particularly in relation to foreign debt forgiveness and restructuring for developing nations, addressing the consequences of climate change, and upholding the principles of international law and the UN Charter. Equally important are the principles of non-interference in the internal affairs of states and the promotion of dialogue and negotiation as pathways to sustainable conflict resolution. BRICS is an essential platform to confront these global challenges. It provides opportunities for enhancing trade and economic ties, advancing cooperation on energy security, fostering technological change, and stimulating investment. By removing barriers to trade and investment, we can unlock novel ways to promote development and prosperity across our nations. I look forward to the discussions at this conference and the opportunities it will open for deepening South-South cooperation. Additionally, I am eager to explore the potential for further collaboration between Peru and BRICS, as well as strengthening bilateral relations between Peru and individual BRICS member countries. Muchas gracias.
Ahora la versión en español.
The Spanish language translation of the speech you just heard will now be read.
Excelencia, doctora Geri Ramón Rufner, rectora de la Universidad San Marcos, señora Helga Zepp-LaRouche, fundadora del Instituto Schiller, excelencias embajadores de los BRICS, países miembros, distinguida comunidad de expertos peruanos e internacionales, invitados honorables. Es un placer estar aquí hoy.
This is the Spanish language translation of the speech that you just heard in English by the Ambassador of Egypt.
A la Federación Rusa, a la Embajada del Perú y al Instituto Schiller por organizar estas discusiones cruciales de los BRICS, particularmente en luz de la membresía expandida. La entrada oficial de Egipto hacia los BRICS al inicio de este año marca un hito significativo en nuestra relación con el grupo. Esta alianza, que ha evolucionado sobre muchos años, está fundada no solamente en los valores compartidos e intereses, pero también tiene una visión de mirada hacia el futuro y reconoce la necesidad para una cooperación concertante de cara a los retos futuros. La invitación de Egipto para unirse a los BRICS es una continuación natural de la interacción con el grupo y es reforzada por las relaciones bilaterales dinámicas y fuertes que Egipto tiene con cada uno de los miembros. Nuestro viaje empezó con una participación activa de los BRICS, del BRIC+, la iniciativa en el 2017, seguida de la unión al nuevo Banco de Desarrollo en el 2021, terminando con nuestra membresía completa hoy en día. Damos la bienvenida a nuestra membresía oficial con... Damos la membresía a nuestra bienvenida oficial Damos la bienvenida a nuestra membresía oficial con el conocimiento de que un BRICS expandido va a ser más efectivo en representar y amplificar su voz en el estadio global. Egipto ve al BRICS no solo como una herramienta geopolítica de competición, pero como una plataforma vital para la cooperación sur-sur, donde los puntos de vista y las preocupaciones de las naciones en desarrollo son escuchadas y abordadas. Para Egipto, la membresía de los BRICS refleja nuestro compromiso profundo para el multilateralismo y la
You were
cooperación.
listening to the Spanish language translation of the speech that you just heard in English delivered by the Egyptian ambassador to Peru.
La expansión de los BRICS va a fortalecer la habilidad del grupo para abordar los temas de cara al sur global, reforzando la representación en el estadio global y defendiendo por un orden internacional más equitativo y justo. Los retos que encaramos hoy son multifacéticos, a través de retos políticos, de seguridad y de los sectores económicos. A través de la participación con el BRICS, Egipto ha resaltado las prioridades claves, incluyendo combatir la seguridad alimentaria, promover la reforma de la económica internacional y marcos financieros, particularmente en relación al perdón de la deuda externa y reestructuración para las naciones en desarrollo, abordando las consecuencias del cambio climático y manteniendo los principios de la ley internacional y del capítulo de las Naciones Unidas. Es igualmente importante son los principios de la no interferencia de los asuntos internos de los estados y la promoción del diálogo y la negociación como camino hacia una resolución de conflictos. BRICS es una plataforma esencial para confrontar estos retos globales. Da oportunidades para mejorar el comercio y los vínculos económicos, avanzando la cooperación respecto a seguridad energética, aumentando el intercambio tecnológico e estimulando la inversión. Al remover las barreras del comercio y la inversión, podemos permitir encontrar nuevos caminos que promueven el desarrollo y la prosperidad en nuestras naciones. Espero con ansias los debates en esta conferencia, las discusiones y las oportunidades que se van a abrir, una cooperación más profunda sur-sur. Adicionalmente, estoy entusiasmado de explorar el potencial para una colaboración futura entre Perú y los BRICS y también cómo fortalecer las relaciones bilaterales entre Perú y los países miembros del BRICS individuales. Muchas gracias.
You just heard the reading in Spanish of the speech that was just delivered in English by the Egyptian ambassador to Peru.
Muchas gracias por sus palabras, estimado embajador.
Thank you, Ambassador. We appreciate your participation and your valued contributions. Next, we invite His Excellency, Ambassador Vishwas Vidhu Sapka, the Ambassador of India in Peru.
Namaskar. Good morning. Buenos dias. It is always good to be back in the University of San Marcos. It's my pleasure. First, let me congratulate Russian Ambassador Mr. Igor Romanchenko for organizing this academic conference discussing importance of BRICS. Esteemed ambassadors, representing the countries of Russia, Brazil, China, Egypt, as well as UAE, South Africa, Member of Parliament, Senior Kiara Alcaraz, Member of Parliament, Congressista Mr. Carlos, as well as Dean of National University, Major University of San Marcos, all the dignitaries which are present here on the dais, as well as amigas y amigos. I express my sincere thanks for having invited me for this conference, which is on the strategies of development and cooperation in the multipolar world. The world has moved towards multipolarity. The countries of the global south had set on the path of the development and progress for at least 2 decades now. BRICS has emerged itself as a prominent economic and financial bloc in the global south, with an alternative worldview compared to the global bodies dominated by the traditional developed powers, and hope the new memberships will also unlock benefits including development finance and increased trade and investment. Since its formation, BRICS has been a bloc for South-South cooperation, through which member countries share knowledge, skills, expertise, and resources to meet their development goals through concentrated efforts not just among themselves, but also to other developing countries. The new development bank has been the most pivotal manifestation of the success of BRICS as a support to the countries of the global south in the areas of infrastructure, water and sanitation, digital transformation, environmental protection, and climate change, etc. Further, the interest from more than 40 countries from the global south in the likes of Argentina, Algeria, Bolivia, Indonesia, Ethiopia, Cuba, Democratic Republic of Congo, Comoros, Gabon, Kazakhstan, Saudi Arabia, etc., also indicates that BRICS has risen up to become an important phase for the development of a global south. In such a scenario, I would like to welcome our new members, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates, the group, as well as to this conference. Today, the BRICS countries have already overtaken the group of seven, G7, advanced economies in terms of their contribution to global gross domestic product. It also accounts for a third of worldwide economic activity measured by purchasing power parity, PPP. BRICS has thus become an important partnership for the developing world. All this indicate that BRICS is being increasingly viewed or considered as by the countries of the global south as an attractive agent of multilateralism. There is a need for concentrated efforts to devise strategies for cooperation among BRICS member countries so as to effectively channelize the bloc as an agent of multilateralism. Diversification of demand by making use of each other's market is one of the key aspects for strengthened trade cooperation among member countries. The adoption of new guiding principles, standards, and procedures might lead BRICS to become a more alluring structure for conscious building and dialogue in the developing world. I also would like to welcome Indian experts, Dr. Nilanjan Ghosh, Director, Center for New Economic Diplomacy, and ORF Kolkata, Center Observer Research Foundation, to this conference. I convey my best wishes for today's discussions in the conference, as well as best wishes for upcoming BRICS summit coming in the Kazan, Russia. Thank you. Muchas gracias.
Ahora la versión en español.
You will now hear the version in Spanish. The Spanish translation of the remarks that you just heard from the Indian ambassador are being read in Spanish to the audience in Lima, Peru.
Y representantes de la Universidad Nacional Mayor de San Marcos, expreso mi más sincero agradecimiento por haberme invitado a esta conferencia en el cual las estrategias de desarrollo y cooperación en un mundo multipolar. El mundo se ha movido hacia la multipolaridad. Los países del sur global tienen el camino hacia el desarrollo y el progreso, por lo menos en las últimas 2 décadas. Los BRICS han emergido como un bloque económico prominente y financiero en el sur global, en un mundo alternativo, comparado a los organismos globales dominados de la manera tradicional, por las potencias tradicionales. Esperamos que la membresía va a desbloquear beneficios, incluyendo desarrollo financiero, comercio aumentado y la inversión. Desde su formación, BRICS ha sido un bloque para el sur, para la cooperación sur-sur, a través de los países miembros, a través del compartir del conocimiento, habilidades, experiencia y recursos para cumplir con sus metas de desarrollo a través de esfuerzos concertados, no solo entre ellos, pero también con otros países en desarrollo. El desarrollo del nuevo Banco de Desarrollo ha sido uno de los puntos pivotales en el éxito del BRICS como apoyo a los países del sur global en las áreas de infraestructura, agua, sanidad, transformación digital, protección medioambiental y cambio climático. Además, el interés de más de 40 países del sur global por ejemplo, Argentina, Algeria, Bolivia, Indonesia, Etiopía, Cuba, la República Democrática del Congo, Comoros, Gabón, Kazajstán, Arabia Saudita, etc. También indica que el BRICS se ha elevado como un bloque importante de cara a los países del sur global. En este escenario quisiera darle la bienvenida a los nuevos miembros, Egipto, Etiopía, Irán y los Emiratos Árabes Unidos.
You are hearing the Spanish language translation of the speech that was just delivered in English by the Indian ambassador to Peru.
En términos de la contribución global al PBI, también cuentan por un tercio de la actividad económica mundial medida por la paridad de adquisitiva, PPP. BRICS, además, se ha convertido en un aliado importante para el mundo en desarrollo. Todo indica que BRICS está siendo visto mejor y considerado por todos los países del sur global como un agente atractivo para el multilateralismo. Hay una necesidad para los esfuerzos concertados para tener estrategias de cooperación entre los países miembros del BRICS y también canalizar el bloque como un agente de multilateralismo. La diversificación de la demanda al tomar uso no solo del mercado entre nosotros, pero también son aspectos clave para fortalecer la cooperación del comercio entre otros países miembros. La adopción de nuevos principios, guía, estándares y procedimientos van a llevar a que el BRICS se convierta en una estructura que llame más al proceso de construir consensos y diálogo para un mundo en desarrollo. También quisiera dar la bienvenida a nuestros expertos de India, el doctor Dylan Ghosh, del Centro de la Diplomacia Económica, y a Kolfata Center, observadores de la Fundación, para esta conferencia. Muchas gracias.
You just heard the Spanish translation of the speech delivered in English by the Indian ambassador to Peru.
आपके विचारों के लिए बहुत धन्यवाद. माननीय राष्ट्रदूत Sabkal. Thank you so much. Muchas gracias, embajador Sabkal, por sus valiosas palabras.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your valuable contribution.
Finalmente,
invitamos
al excelentísimo señor embajador
ask His Excellency, Mr. George Manyamangene, the Ambassador of the Republic of South Africa, accredited to Chile, with responsibility for Peru as well.
Good afternoon. At first, I wish to acknowledge the Ambassador of the Russian Federation, Ambassador Igor Romanchenko, for inviting me to be part of this auspicious occasion and to say a few words at this conference. I also wish to acknowledge all the ambassadors accredited to Peru and representatives of the University of San Marcos and the Schiller Institute and distinguished guests that are participating today. It is indeed a great honor and privilege for me to be part of this. And I also wish to maybe add that it is probably the right opportunity to congratulate Russia in its chairship of the BRICS Plus in 2024 as you move towards the BRICS Summit. The BRICS Plus has a common vision of a more equitable, fair, balanced, and representative global political, economic, and financial system. Recent reform achievements serve as the foundation for continued efforts to channel the collective BRICS Plus voice and influence where it can make a change. I think it's important to note that this is very necessary, particularly as we seek to attain lasting peace, security, and sustainable development for all, as we seek the betterment of people's lives in every aspect. The BRICS Plus cooperation provides tangible benefits through research and innovation, energy, health, and education cooperation. As we know by now, more than 100 multilateral BRICS Plus research projects have been funded under the BRICS Plus framework program. People-to-people cooperation manifests through arts, through film and cultural exchanges, And the BRICS Plus Film Festival, the BRICS Plus cultural events, the BRICS Plus Games has been quite important in terms of ensuring that members of the BRICS Plus can also have an opportunity to have people-to-people and knowledge exchanges. Furthermore, through this, we know that this has also provided an opportunity for increased access to capital for infrastructure and sustainable development. And furthermore, it has also provided an opportunity for enhanced research and innovation, just to mention a few. The BRICS Plus countries have been the main engines of global economic growth in recent years. The combined economic strength of the BRICS Plus countries can be a catalyst for sustainable global economic recovery and also contribute positively to the response to disruptions when it pertains to supply chains and challenges that are related to food and energy insecurity. Therefore, the revised strategy for the BRICS Plus economic partnership provides the basis for enhancing intra-BRICS Plus economic interaction and cooperation, including opportunities for market access and to facilitate market interlinkages, to promote mutual trade and investment, to create a business-friendly environment and diversified trade and investment cooperation that supports value addition. This in itself, we believe, augurs well for continued cooperation and for holistic and sustainable development. I wish to conclude my remarks by wishing this conference to be a successful event and for fruitful engagements going forth. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share a few remarks with all. Thank you.
Muchísimas gracias al
Thank
excelentísimo
you
señor
very
embajador
much, His Excellency, the Ambassador of the Republic of South Africa and Chile. I would like to thank all of the ambassadors for their inspiring and brilliant observations in this first panel. I would also like to thank those authorities who have joined us, and we would invite you to stay for the next panel of this discussion. This is the panel which has to do with the international experts and with the question of the perspectives for the BRICS. International experts are going to share their ideas as to how the BRICS countries can encourage sustainable development in a cooperative fashion in the global context. In that regard, we begin this first panel asking Dr. Viktoria Panova, the head of the BRICS Russian expert panel and Deputy Dean of the Higher School of Economics of Russia in Moscow.
It is my extreme honor to be part of this seminar, too bad online, but I mean, it takes long flight, which was unfortunately not possible for me. But I'm happy to join you second year in a row. And my special thanks to Embassy of Russia in Peru for organizing this very important discussion on BRICS. So what is BRICS? It has become extremely fashionable recently, and not for, it is for a reason. So we could be saying that BRICS has really become the core of their changing world order, transforming it to more fair, to more inclusive manner, and ensuring the rights and interests of all their countries of their, as we say, global majority, changing the rules in order to fit not just the few, right, but to be answering to all of our needs. And that is why it is important. We saw this year it expanded to twice as big. So we, starting from January 1st, it became quite challenging task to incorporate the new members. But I think we managed. So we are already 2/3 behind our presidency, and we had major events already. Of course, the biggest one is ahead of us. It will happen at the end of October, 22nd, 24th. But what is important is that many people were saying, "Oh my God," you know, as like 15 years ago, that BRICS. Well, what is BRICS? Will it stay for next year? It will dissolve. No common interests. So what we are seeing that it not only stayed, it grew, it got essence, and in fact, it has there being not an institution, it's not an organization, have it in mind. But being there, BRICS managed to have really dense dense tissue of cooperation, of interrelations. This is very important. This is not just leaders meeting. Of course, this is the peak. But what is key, that BRICS sentiment is not just political or not just economic. It's shared by its people. That's why we have so many outreach formats that are working on each and every layer of our society, be it think tank, and in fact, think tank BRICS has started its functioning and its way even before the first official summit, December 2008. Youth, civil. In fact, this year we had Eurasian Women's Forum when our Speaker of Senate of the upper chamber of Parliament, Valentina Matvienko, in fact, organized the first BRICS Women Summit, BRICS Women Forum. We have parliamentarians, different task forces of all paths of life. So it's very important that BRICS is not about talking. BRICS is about having people meet, learn about each other, networking, understanding each other's mentality. And in fact, this is a strength. When the West says, okay, you're so different, this is good. This is why we're still there, because we accept each other as different and we accept each other as diverse. But also what is important is that when we're having BRICS, we're doing things nobody expects us to. Just give you a few examples. Being a historian, I remember I was looking into the G7. It actually it took them quite a long time even to coordinate on an unofficial level without being kind of organized any financial track. They allowed in 2 years later, Italy and Canada. They were not original members. It was the library group. So they let them in, but those two countries were not part of financial track for 10 years. So it's discriminative nature from the first, from the start, and also it doesn't put an effort into really challenging each other in terms of doing real projects. What we see with BRICS, we have NDB that came to existence just within 2 years after its experts started discussing it. We have the Network University. We have STI program in architecture, and actually all their working groups in there. They not only meet regularly, but they come up with regular projects. We have special funding for our scientists in different fundamental and sciences, human sciences. We have, if you look at our economy, because many people say it's primarily about economy, we see BRICS economic cooperation, BRICS economic trade, intra-BRICS. It grows much faster than BRICS versus the other world. So this is also a sign of time. And what is done for that, we do take practical steps. So there are already 2 existing economic strategy partnerships. And we will take the 3rd one already with twice as many members next year. There usually question arises everywhere in all formats this year. So what will we see at Kazan? Will we see another enlargement? Anything might happen. We know not everybody, or let's say mainly nobody, presuppose that we'll have such a immediate enlargement in Johannesburg, or that those countries would join and it would be immediately full membership. Because the first row expansion was South Africa, and it came the next year and joined in another year. So it was easier. Just one country added, and not so many projects so far. Now we have a lot of those. And of course, to integrate everyone into those projects, it does take an effort. But what to expect with next expansion is that, yes, we remain inclusive. Sergei Lavrov said that there is a consensus that it should not be. But as I said, leaders might change not change, they might think differently because they have the global picture. But what is important, that the most efficient way would be to have new BRICS friends, partners, in a status of partner, because it is stressful to remain efficient, not just for BRICS, but this is not for nothing that I mentioned amount of projects and programs together and institutions. This is stressful to join in all of them immediately, something that was elaborated for a decade and a half. It takes time. So it does make sense, but as an expert, right? So leaders might decide differently, to have this partner status and ensure that the new countries, the aspirants that want to join BRICS, are step-by-step integrated. They join some programs, they join some events, some forums together with BRICS. And in fact, if you look at it this way, that's what we started doing this year already. Even before, but this year it was more obvious because, yes, we were first presidency, first chairship in the new expanded format. But also, if you look at all our events that are even a part of official calendar, we have many more countries. For example, I'm now talking to you from our ongoing BRICS school, International BRICS School, that is happening since 2017. And in fact, I hope that your students, your youth would be participating in the next ones. So this school now encompasses not just BRICS members, but 36 countries altogether. So we're already doing it. Even if there is no official enlargement, there's certainly already a group of world majority countries that is very much supportive of the fair international system and that could work together to do it.
Muchas gracias a la doctora Viktoria Panova
Thank
por su
you,
participación.
Dr. Viktoria Panova, for your remarks. Next, we invite Mrs. Helga Zepp-LaRouche, the founder of the Schiller Institute. A round of applause, please.
Dear conference participants, ladies and gentlemen, the tension in the world affairs has never been stronger in human history. On the one side, a genocide happening in front of the eyes of the world public and the terrifying threat of the possible extinction of mankind in a global nuclear war. And on the other side, the concrete perspective for the creation of a new economic system where the aspiration of the global South nations for development, prosperity, and a fulfilled life for all of its citizens is about to come true. This tension characterizes the end of the epoch of colonialism, which started about 500 years ago and is now about to end one way or another. As Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov recently said, the level of conflict on the occupied Palestinian territory and in the Lebanese-Israeli border region is unprecedented, destabilizing the entire Southwest Asia and North Africa. According to two American surgeons who just returned from Gaza, Dr. Mark Perlmutter and Dr. Feroce Sitwa, the level of suffering surpasses that of any other war zone they have ever worked in. The defiance of the powers that be to respect the rulings of the highest courts of this world is encouraging a war drive aimed to engage Iran and even the United States into the conflict, which would rapidly expand into a world war. Equally at the cusp of global conflict is the situation between NATO and Russia, where President Putin just announced a proposed change in the Russian nuclear doctrine, stating for the first time that Russia could respond with nuclear weapons to an overwhelming conventional military attack coming from a non-nuclear country if that attacking country was backed by a nuclear power. This is the Russian reaction to a long line of provocations from the West, starting with the broken promises to President Gorbachev at the end of Cold War, never to expand NATO 1 inch to the east, through the Western-backed Maidan coup in 2014 and the delivery of ever more powerful weapons to Ukraine until the very recent threat to allow Ukraine the use of these weapons for strikes deep into the territory of Russia. The announcement of the new Russian nuclear doctrine is literally the last warning before the apocalypse could descend on humanity. The effort by the BRICS nations and nations aspiring to become BRICS members has already evoked the spirit of Bandung, meaning a tremendous sense of optimism that economic independence can finally be accomplished. But at the same time, it is more than appropriate to also remind ourselves of the warnings of President Sukarno in his historic speech at the Bandung Conference in 1955, which sounds totally prophetic for the crisis we face today. Sukarno said, "Today, the picture is more black. War would not only mean a threat to our independence, it may mean the end of civilization and even of human life. There is a force loose in the world whose potentialities for evil no man truly knows. Even in practice and rehearsal for war, the effects may well be building up into something of unknown horror. Not so long ago, it was possible to take some little comfort from the idea that the clash, if it came, could perhaps be settled by what we called conventional weapons, bombs, tanks, cannon, and men. Today, that little grain of comfort is denied for us. It has been made clear that the weapons of ultimate horror will certainly be used, and the military planning of nations is on that basis. The unconventional has become conventional, and who knows what other examples of misguided and diabolical scientific skills have been discovered as a plague on humanity. And do not think that the oceans and the seas will protect us. The food that we eat, the water that we drink, yes, even the very air that we breathe can be contaminated by poisons originating from thousands of miles away. And it could be that even if we ourselves escaped lightly, the unborn generations of our children would bear on their distorted bodies the mark of our failure to control the forces which have been released on the world. No task is more urgent than that of preserving peace. Without peace, our independence means little. The rehabilitation and upbuilding of our countries will have little meaning, Our revolutions will not be allowed to run their course. What can we do? The peoples of Asia and Africa wield little physical power. Even their economic strength is dispersed and slight. We cannot indulge in power politics. Diplomacy for us is not a matter of the big stick. Our statesmen, by and large, are not backed up with serried ranks of jet bombers. What can we do? We can do much. We can inject the voice of reason into world affairs. We can mobilize all the spiritual, all the moral, all the political strengths of Asia and Africa on the side of peace. Yes, we, the people of Asia and Africa, 1,400,000 strong, far more than half the population of the world, we can mobilize what I have called the moral violence of nations in favor of peace. We can demonstrate to the minority of the world which lives on the other continents that we, the majority, are for peace, not for war, and that whatever strengths we have will always be thrown onto the side of peace. These were the words of President Sukarno. That is exactly the most urgent thing you, the people of the Global South, who have long become the global majority of 7.2 billion people, which according to Chatham House represents 88% of the human population, absolutely must do. You must make your voice unmistakably made clear so that the populations of the collective Wests who are still condoning the policies of their governments cannot help but being woken up to the immediate danger we are all in. Fortunately, the way out of this present existential danger is also right in front of us. President Sukarno had warned in the same speech, colonialism has also its modern dress in the form of economic control, intellectual control, actual physical control by a small but alien community in a nation. The BRICS nations are working to make the new development bank headquartered in Shanghai the great development of the Global South, as President Lula da Silva of Brazil had put it. That bank has the potential to become the basis for a new credit system, which eventually will be the coordination center for a system of national banks of all sovereign countries of the Global South, issuing vast long-term credit lines and low interest rates, which can finance the development of all countries of the developing sector into modern industrial and agricultural states. There is a major effort underway to shape the design of the new development bank according to the original first proposal to replace the IMF World Bank system with an international development bank, first proposed by the American economist and statesman LaRouche in 1975. After meeting a significant number of leaders of the developing sector in Baghdad, he issued his document, How the International Development Bank Will Work, which subsequently was studied by all governments of the non-aligned movement and whose demands were expressed in the final communiqué in the summit in Colombo, Sri Lanka in the following year. LaRouche wrote in this proposal, to this end, we have already identified, in consultation with some of the world's leading professionals and relevant government agencies, several major specific development projects which can readily, over a 5 to 10 year period of development, yield a massive increase in the output and social productivity of world agriculture and thereupon premise the infrastructural basis for massive industrial development. We have similarly determined the feasibility of controlled thermonuclear fusion reaction technology within the horizon of such development programs, such that no long-term energy crisis could exist except through massive incompetence by leading agencies. At that time, there was a major backlash against the leaders of the non-aligned movement, several of whom were destabilized and driven out of office. But today, the existence of the BRICS and growing number of nations aspiring to become members have the historic momentum on their side to indeed end colonialism for good and establish a just new world economic order, which enables every country on the planet to flourish. The effort to create a new economic system must go hand in hand to establish a new global security and development architecture, which takes the interest of every single country into account in order to overcome the poison of geopolitical thinking once and for all. The historic model for this is the Peace of Westphalia, which ended 150 years of religious warfare in Europe and which brought the war-fighting parties together, who realized that nobody would enjoy a victory because they all would be dead if they continued the fighting. And how much more this is true today in the era of thermonuclear weapons. Out of Westphalia came the principle that peace is only possible if one considers the interest of the other, emphatically all others. In order to overcome all forms of geopolitics in international relations must be based from now on the 5 principles of peaceful coexistence and the UN Charter, as well as a dialogue of civilizations aimed at the renaissance of the best tradition of all of mankind has produced so far. By unleashing the creative potential of every human being on the planet, we will be able to overcome oligarchism and colonialism forever and bring forth the innate good of human nature through the development of all potentialities of all people. We are at the ultimate crossroad of humanity. Never before have we been tested for our moral fitness to survive as just now. Let us uphold the principle of non-violence in the tradition of Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King, but let us mobilize the moral violence of peace of President Sukarno. Let us all bring out the best in us and create a true community of shared future of humanity.
Muchas gracias a la señora
Thank you
Helga Zepp-LaRouche.
very much for Mrs. Helga Zepp-LaRouche. We now follow with the next block of presentations. We now introduce Dr. Marta Fernandez, the Associate Professor of the Institute of International Studies of the Pontifical Catholic University of Rio de Janeiro.
Hola, buenos días. Muchas gracias.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for the invitation. I'm Marta Fernandez. I'm the current director of the BRICS Policy Center, which is a think tank associated with the Institute of International Studies of the Pontifical Catholic University of Rio. I want to talk about the role of Brazil in the BRICS grouping. We are currently in the third government of President Lula, and he believes greatly in the importance of this grouping, the idea of promoting a multipolar world, a more equitable world, a less exclusive world, and he believes that BRICS has a central role to play in promoting this. In fact, the theme of the government of Brazil is to bring Brazil back into the international scenario. One of the international historical goals of Brazil is achieving the democratization of global governance, have a greater role, greater voice, greater voting power of the global South countries. In fact, this is the agenda that is today dominating discussions in the G20, which Brazil is the president of this year. Lula is placing the issue of inequality as something which is present in all aspects of this agenda, and emphasizing the need to address the issues of poverty, of hunger, and the inequalities of the world order. Brazil's presidency believes that the G20 is part of a broader process, since next year we will be heading up both the BRICS and also COP30, and the possibilities of global governance are such that these are connected. I wanted to say as well that one of the central agenda items of the G20 this year in Brazil is, in fact, reforming the global architecture, so much so both in the financial realm, but also President Lula has emphasized, and this was clear in the speech that he gave at the General Assembly of the United Nations, the importance as well of the reform of the Security Council of the United Nations. Brazil historically has been in favor of such a reform, understanding that a greater participation of the Global South nations, far from being something that would impede the efficiency of the Security Council, is something that would contribute to that efficiency. So President Lula has always proposed the idea of representativity as well as being effective. And that the same holds as well for the expansion of the BRICS as well, including countries of the Middle East, countries of Africa. I would also like to say that we feel a great attraction towards the BRICS group. That's understandable from looking at the material factors. For example, the trade opportunities, investment opportunities. But I always say that we have to also consider the attractiveness that the BRICS exerts in the realm of ideas, in the realm of that is more symbolic, precisely because the BRICS, in some fashion, is against those efforts that are made to homogenize the international system, and is in favor of returning to an agenda which is very important for the Global South in terms of defense of plurality, both politically, economically, and culturally on an international scale. So, in some fashion, the BRICS defend this plurality and the possibility that every country be able to speak its own language, be able to trade in its own currency, and have its own process of development and modernization, to do it in its own way. And we're opposed to this idea of a single history, a single process of modernization. So, in my view, although many people say that one of the central problems of the BRICS grouping are the differences among the states, we think exactly the opposite, that the differences are not a problem. This is not a sign of weakness of the BRICS, quite the contrary. It is an indication of the strength that we have, precisely because we respect these unique aspects of, and the different pathways and the different histories of the different states. I would also like to say that at this moment of political instability, of polarization, I think that Brazil has a very important role to play in the sense of opening a space for dialogue to depolarize the international system, contributing towards a more democratic international governance. I also want to emphasize the fact that Brazil, when it thinks in terms of democracy, it thinks of it in a scalar and transversal way. That is to say, not just the importance of democracy as such within existing states, but also democracy in the financial system and in the broader governance systems that exist internationally. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias a la doctora Marta
Thank you,
Fernández.
Dr. Marta Fernandez. Next, we invite Councillor Ahmed Magdi from the Department of Foreign Economic Relations from the Foreign Ministry of the Arab Republic of Egypt.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Greetings from Cairo. I am Ahmed Magdi. I'm a counselor at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Egypt. I'm in charge of BRICS at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and it gives me a great pleasure to participate virtually in this very important international academic conference on BRICS strategies of development and cooperation in the multipolar world. And at the outset, I would like to express the appreciation for the organizers of today's meeting, the Embassy of the Russian Federation in Lima, the National University of San Marcos, the Center of Asian Studies of the University of San Marcos, and Schiller Institute, and the San Marcos Foundation. And I wish you, at the outset as well, a very fruitful discussion throughout today's conference. The world is witnessing, especially developing countries, multiple interlinked crises and challenges that are truly affecting our countries, especially developing countries. These crises include increasing rate of debt, of poverty, a debt crisis, the adverse impacts of climate change, and above all, instability in peace and security situation that is manifested in the ongoing war on Gaza that has resulted in unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe. It is in this time that BRICS, and in the light of the above mentioned crises, that BRICS can play a very important role in helping our countries achieve our priorities, especially pertaining to achieving sustainable development, eradicating poverty, and creating a fairer world for the present and future generations. And the expansion of BRICS, which took place effectively this year, proves the willingness of strengthening cooperation in the three main pillars of the group, which are political, economic, and cultural pillars. And since we joined the group this year, effectively this year, we were very keen on integrating ourselves in the work of this group and all the different tracks of cooperation in the three pillars that I've mentioned earlier. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Russian chairmanship, which has truly exerted all efforts to ensure that all the new members, including my country, Egypt, are integrated in the work of the group so we can contribute to our joint efforts to achieve the priorities and as well as help us implement the strategies that we look forward. And in light of this, I would like to highlight a number of priorities that are very important from Egypt. And I believe that they're also important for developing countries at large. And I would start by Firstly, addressing the issue of the reform of the international financial architecture, which has been a long-standing position of the developing countries for decades. The reform of the international financial architecture will include the IFIs, of course, and the role of the MDBs, the multilateral development banks, to make them more fit for purpose and to address the specific needs of developing countries, especially when it comes to the provision of concessional finance, a very important priorities that has been a long-standing position for developing countries. Another issue that I would like to highlight is our efforts to join the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2030. As we speak today, there is a deficit in financing of the SDGs, which has reached $4 trillion a year. And the provision of means of implementation to achieve the SDGs, with about 6 years left to 2030, is of an utmost importance, especially for developing countries. I believe that this platform provides the necessary place where we can exchange ideas on how to accelerate the implementation of the SDGs. The third issue I would like to address here is climate change. Climate change affects developing countries more than anyone else. We are the most vulnerable to its catastrophic adverse impacts. As we speak today, again, developing countries need $5.9 trillion to implement their nationally determined contributions up to the year 2030. And we do need financing, especially concessional finance. We need transfer of technologies, as well as capacity building. This should be all based on the Rio principles, especially the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. The fourth issue I would like to address here is creating a fair multilateral trade system that helps developing countries achieve sustainable development. A fair multilateral trade system is of an utmost importance for developing countries. The fifth point that I would like to address as we speak here is one of the main pillars of BRICS is cultural cooperation and people-to-people communication. Our countries belong to great civilizations with great history and traditions, which enriches the diversity of the group. Having people-to-people interaction, having cooperation on cultural aspects will further enrich the work of the group. This is a very important track that includes academia, research centers, as well as think tanks to work together and benefit our joint work. BRICS is an excellent platform where countries can come together, share their experiences, share their expertise, and contribute in an excellent manner and with a view under the principle of the South-South cooperation as well, to enrich each other, to help each other achieve our priorities, especially when it's pertaining to development and eradicating poverty and creating a better future for the next generations. Finally, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the Russian chairmanship throughout this year in leading our work, and I will also wish all the best to Brazil, who will assume the chairmanship of BRICS starting next year, and Egypt remains committed to strengthening the work of BRICS in all areas and tracks of cooperation with a view to create a better future for our people. I thank you very much, and I wish you a very fruitful conference. Thank you.
Muchas gracias al señor consejero.
Thank you very much to Councillor Ahmed Magdi. Our next to the last panelist is this second panel is Mr. Nilanjan Ghosh, who is the Director for the Center for New Economic Diplomacy in the Observer Research Foundation of Kolkata, India.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to learn that the Embassy of Russia in Peru has organized this scientific conference in collaboration with the embassies of BRICS countries in Lima, the National Major University of San Marcos, and the Schiller Institute. It is a privilege for me to discuss a topic of immense importance: BRICS, strategies of development and cooperation in the multipolar world. This is focusing entirely on India's scientific approach, cooperation within BRICS. The original BRICS bloc, comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, represents 41% of the global population, 24% of the world's GDP, and 16% of global trade. This grouping has emerged as a formidable economic and geopolitical force. India, alongside China, has played a pivotal role in driving this growth, with both nations recording a very high average growth rates from 2000 to 2021. On January 1, 2024, BRICS took a major step forward by expanding its membership to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. Now rebranded as BRICS Plus, the group brings together the founding members, and which includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and the new entrants, that is Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. This expansion aims to better reflect the voice of the developing world and enhance its influence in global affairs. Together, the BRICS Plus boasts impressive global impact. This includes 37% of global GDP, 40% of world's goods trade, nearly half of the world's population, and 40% of global crude production and exports. In today's post-COVID interconnected world, we face a polycrisis, collision of global challenges such as supply chain bottlenecks, hostilities in the geopolitical domains, and the mounting climate emergency. These overlapping crises have laid bare the fragility of our global systems, highlighting the urgent need for fresh models of collaboration. BRICS emerges as a beacon, offering an alternative grounded in multilateralism, respect for sovereignty, and collective decision-making. As the global order evolves, BRICS presents a counterpoint or an antithesis to the Western-led institutions like the G7, the IMF, or the World Bank. With its emphasis on regional cooperation and inclusive governance, BRICS is actively shaping a new global dialogue. India is a beacon in this transformation. Its leadership in science, technology, and innovation, that is STI, plays a pivotal role. India's dedication to STI has long been a key element in its BRICS strategy, perfectly aligning with the group's aspirations for technological innovation and sustainable growth. India's initiatives, ranging from tackling climate change to improving public health, directly address the pressing challenges faced by the BRICS nations. For instance, India's ambitious national solar mission, with its goal of achieving 100 gigawatt of solar energy capacity, not only elevates its renewable energy footprint, but also spearheads the International Solar Alliance, a coalition of 120 countries. This solidifies India's leadership in driving BRICS climate goals. As per a recent research by the Observer Research Foundation, BRICS leads the path in climate action as compared to many other blocs. Two important observations are: A, the BRICS aggregate performance is better than the G20 and the OECD. B, Brazil and India support the better performance of the BRICS as compared to the other blocs. Now, in global health, India's leadership glittered during the COVID-19 pandemic with its Vaccine Maitri initiative, delivering vaccines to over 90 nations. This initiative underscores India's commitment to equitable health solutions and highlights its scientific leadership. In biotechnology, India continues to break new ground in vaccine research, strengthening collaboration within the BRICS. India's scientific excellence is also evident in space technology. The Indian Space Research Organization, or the ISRO, has achieved global acclaim for its affordable and successful missions like Chandrayaan and the Mangalyaan. Through the BRICS Space Cooperation Joint Committee, India is opening new frontiers for technological cooperation across the bloc. From health to agriculture, biotechnology, and advanced digital technologies, India remains steadfast in advancing BRICS cooperation across critical sectors, leveraging scientific research to drive innovative solutions for sustainable development. One significant development in the BRICS partnership on new industrial is the BRICS partnership on new industrial revolution, what we call the Part NEIR, where India plays a critical role. This partnership facilitates cooperation in cutting-edge technologies like artificial intelligence, intelligent manufacturing, and clean energy. By championing alternative technical standards, India and other BRICS nations can enhance their global competitiveness. Global innovation indices of the BRICS nations show that innovation indicators, both on the input side and the output side, have an upward trend for BRICS in general. Based on the average value of the BRICS countries from 2013 to 2023, there is an increase in scores for the group of indicators, which are knowledge and technology outputs, by 4%, for the group of indicators human capital and research by 20%, and for the group of indicators infrastructure by 25%. India has generally contributed significantly to this increasing trend and has been a major force in BRICS performance movement in case of knowledge and technology outputs. A hallmark of BRICS has been its proactive creation of financial institutions that champion sustainable development. Leading the charge, the New Development Bank, or the NDB, backed by a robust $100 billion capital base, has funded transformative infrastructure projects with a strong focus on renewable energy, climate resilience, and solar inclusion. India has played a key role in pushing for the NDB's support of science, technology, and innovation-driven initiatives to combat the global climate crisis and foster green technology. These projects align perfectly with India's commitment to sustainable development, especially in solar, hydropower, and other renewable energy sources. Moreover, BRICS is paving the way for a new financial ecosystem with initiatives like BRICS Pay and digital currencies aimed at reducing dependence on the US dollar. This push for monetary sovereignty echoes India's vision of a more equitable global financial system, shielding economies from currency volatility and sanction risks. The recent inclusion of economies like the Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Egypt into the BRICS Plus network further enhances the group's financial base, providing new opportunities for large-scale STI projects. As BRICS continues to evolve, sustaining momentum requires navigating diverse geopolitical interests. India's balanced diplomatic approach can ensure that scientific collaboration remains a unifying force within BRICS, even amid complex political dynamics. The long-term sustainability of institutions like the NDB is also vital. India emphasizes the need for robust governance mechanisms to maintain financial stability while addressing increasing demands for large-scale STI projects. With a focus on infrastructure and STI, BRICS fosters innovation and strengthens its financial autonomy in a volatile global market. India's scientific leadership, supported by its strong GDP and a rapidly growing skilled workforce, places it at the core of BRICS efforts to promote sustainable development and equitable development. Moreover, the Global South gains prominence in global supply chains. India's demographic advantage can support the BRICS in addressing the labor shortages and fostering innovation. To conclude, the complex wave of global crisis presents BRICS with a rare opportunity to step up as a leader. The BRICS can be the beacon of hope in the tempestual global geopolitical and the geoeconomic climate. India, with its prowess in driving scientific innovation and fostering STI collaboration, stands at the forefront of this transformation. By doubling down investments in science, technology, and innovation, achieving financial independence and strengthening capacity, BRICS can pave the way for a more resilient, sustainable, and cooperative world. Under India's leadership, BRICS is poised to not only tackle pressing global challenges, but also to deliver lasting solutions that uplift both its members and the wider international community. Thank you.
Muchas gracias al señor
Thank you very much, Mr. Milan Changosh, for his remarks. The last presentation on this panel is Dr. Michele Geraci. He is the former Undersecretary of State in the Economic Development Ministry of Italy. He is a professor at the University of Nottingham and the University of New York in Shanghai.
Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for inviting me to this very important event. I speak to you from London, and today I want to tell you a few things over the next few minutes about the role of China in Africa as part of the Belt and Road Initiative. A few things, a few information and data that I want to start from. First of all, the amount of Chinese investment in Africa is much more than the official statistic suggests. And this is because the way we do accounting for FDI, for indirect investment from one country to another one, tends to miss out certain activities, certain financing activities that, however, should be included. For example, in FDI, we only include acquisition equity participation that go above 10% of the target company. We only include equity and not debt financing. And we know, of course, that China may have debt financing activities through the China Import-Export Bank or the China Development Bank that add to the, let's say, even if it's not the official value of FDI, of Chinese FDI in Africa, it is part of the, what I call it, the financial muscle of China in the continent. And so the number that our team has estimated is around 450 US dollar billion invested in Africa in various forms. So that should give us the order of magnitude of how strong Chinese presence is in Africa. Of course, I am a big supporter of the Belt and Road because I think the Belt and Road is an initiative of peace, is an initiative of development, and this is exactly what the world needs now. In the case of Africa, it's even more interesting because what China is trying to do is to duplicate, with the caveat of the situation, its own domestic economic development model that has been so successful in China over the last 20, 30 years, and trying to see if this model can be adapted into Africa. The model is based on three key pillars, which is migration from rural areas to urban areas, development of transport infrastructure, which then leads to development of urbanization, so the people can migrate. They can have trains and motorways that could move them from the rural areas to the city. And then they also have places to live and places to work. So it's part of this ideal. If you want, we can follow the life of a Chinese farmer that leaves its land and takes a train, goes to the city, lives in a home that is somehow provided by the company where he works for, and then goes into maybe manufacturing, maybe service sectors. Now, this has been very successful, and this is the model that I think China is trying to reduplicate into Africa, of course, with the local characteristics, because each of the 54 African country has its own peculiarities. But for example, in Ethiopia, that was one of the examples that is very similar. And Ethiopia is going through this same, or has gone through the similar phenomenon of migrating people from the rural areas and urbanize cities, and then move on to manufacturing. We are seeing, for example, in Congo, that the old maybe mining extraction industries of cobalt, that of course we all know about, is now transitioning to where a lot more of the value added is left in the host country. And so that the African countries do not just export the raw material that is then processed into other countries, which is the model that has happened before. But now even this model is evolving. So the Chinese model into Africa is evolving into allowing more and more of the value added to be generated in each of the African countries where these minerals are extracted. So we're adding, in a way, a fifth pillar in addition to the transport, urbanization, manufacturing that we discussed before. China is now has now understood that that model is not enough. Has worked very well for the last 20 years. Let's not forget the poverty rate in Africa has gone down and has started to go down at the same time as Chinese investment has been made in Africa. So there is a correlation. And of course, there is also a relationship of causality between those two. But now China smartly understands that they need to do a little bit more, maybe to respond to criticism that maybe Chinese, in the eyes of certain Western media, is seen as a neo-colonial economic power that grabs resources and then leaves, which was never true, because of course we say that China does not leave, but China leaves in the host countries, railways, bridges, ports, motorways, and so on. But now China also wants to leave a little bit more of value added through this processing of raw material. And this is what I call it a win-win situation. China cost base has gone up a lot now, so China would find it very convenient to have that processing industry being done in African countries where manpower is still relatively low. So China gets cheaper semi-final products, and the local economies employ more people. They create local GDP, and also from a soft power geopolitical point of view, that is good. Let's say put China in a better situation. It improves the image of China in the international community. The final point that I want to tell you is that why am I a big fan, not just of the Belt and Road, but of the Belt and Road in Africa? It's because it is only through the social and economic development of Africa that we can mitigate the large migratory flow that we expect to happen from Africa into Europe. We know demography is such that African population will double, Nigeria population will reach very soon 400 million people, and so Europe very simply cannot absorb this new quantity of migrants. We in Europe have our own problems, and so we cannot really afford, we don't have really physical space. We need to be very honest about it. So instead of having poor migrants that come to our European countries and get marginalized because they don't have opportunities, and so they fall astray in the society, we think, and I think, that the role of China and the Belt and Road in Africa is to create those economic development opportunities so that people don't migrate anymore. And it is very ironic, and really here I leave you, that European governments are against the Belt and Road. including my own Italian government, that has exited, surprisingly, without giving any reason, the agreement between Italy and China on the Belt and Road, because it is only via cooperating with China in Africa that we can offer African people that economic development that is double bottom. It's good from an ethical point of view. So we colonial powers of the past kind of can start that process of forgiving ourselves. Italy less so than other countries in Europe, but it is also in our own advantage because we want Africa to develop so that we stop this migratory flow. And we also, of course, create an additional, hopefully middle class, new market for our product that we export into this new market. So Belt and Road is a win-win. Belt and Road in Africa is a no-brainer. It is very surprising, and I repeat it, that the European Western countries are against it. Because by being against the Belt and Road, Italian and other European governments are really against the welfare of their own citizens.
Muchísimas gracias al doctor Michele
Thank you
Geraci.
very much, Dr. Michele Geraci. And with him, we have concluded the second panel of international experts. Next, to lighten the load a bit here, we will have another dance performance from the troupe from the National Major University of San Marcos, founded in 1960. This is a typical dance from Junín province. Is performed in January and February of the year with typical instruments and typical dance steps. This is a typical Peruvian dance. A round of applause, please.
Muchísimas gracias al elenco mayor de
Very
danza
much for the dance troupe of folklore dance from the University of San Marcos. Now we turn to our third and final panel, which we'll be hearing from national experts to look at how to encourage cooperation between Latin American countries and the BRICS, looking at the synergetic aspects of this. For that, we ask Dr. Carlos Aquino, member of the Center of Asian Studies of the National Major University of San Marcos, to please come to the podium.
Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here on this panel. I want to thank all of you who are here because this is a long session. This is almost 3 hours. Should have started at 10, but the fact is it's been an extraordinary event. I'm really pleased to have been able to cooperate with this, and we are cooperating with the efforts of the Russian Embassy of Peru, which proposed this idea to us, and we're very happy to be able to help bring about this event. I'm going to say only 2 things because I was told to speak 5 minutes, less than 10 minutes, so that we don't have an empty hall because the time has passed. I don't think it's necessary to emphasize the importance of the BRICS. 5 original countries, now another 5. The experts, the ambassadors which preceded me have spoken about this. This is a group which is more and more important, and their role in the international economy is greater and greater. Majority of the world's population are included in these 10 countries. Imagine there is a long list of countries that want to join. I'll mention 2 only. Turkey, which is a power in the Middle East, and Indonesia, which is the 4th country in the world in terms of population. So imagine were those 2 countries and others, there's another 15 or so, as far as I understand, would they join the BRICS, would become more and more important. Also, the world is going through a series of changes. The world is not today what it was 50, 60 years ago. There's a change in power, the West's power, and it's shifting towards the East, just to give an example of China and India, but also from the Northern Hemisphere to the Southern Hemisphere as well. As has been said, 40, 50 years ago, there were the famous non-aligned countries. Now it's known as the Global South. So it's good that such a group exists, a group of countries that want to have a greater voice in international affairs. It's also been emphasized that the world is going through not only that process of change, of shifting economic and political power from the West to the East, but also from the North to the South. Having said that, I'm going to only say why Peru should be interested in the BRICS for a number of reasons. First, we should be interested in it because it's an incredible fact why these centers of power are being transformed, are shifting. But I think the other reason is that even now today, in the year 2024, Peru has a very great relationship with the 10 members of the BRICS. Let me just mention one or two aspects of this. For example, in 1990, you can imagine that foreign trade of Peru with what are now the BRICS countries wasn't even 7% of our exports. Not even 3%, excuse me, wasn't even 3% of our trade. And what do you think it is today when we look at the foreign trade of Peru with the 10 countries of the BRICS? We're at about 60% of our trade. No, it's 42%. Just with China alone, our exports to China are 37%. Add to that, exports to India, it's another 4%. So just imagine. With those 10 countries of the BRICS, we already have a growing, strong trade pattern. So it's obvious that if the members of the BRICS represent an important part of our trade, it's obvious that we are going to be interested in that. It's not just a question of those countries, which represent an important aspect of our trade. Imagine the potential that they represent. China's going to keep growing. You all know that. India is going to keep growing, so much so that in the next 20, 30 years, they say that among the main economies, the 5 economies of the world, obviously China, India, surely the United States, those 3 will be fighting it out for first place, but they're also saying that Indonesia, which is also showing interest in, or Turkey. But it's not just the question of trade, it's also a matter of investment. So trade is already 42% of Peru's trade. BRICS can increase a lot more, especially if the number of members increase, but the aspect of investment. Consider that investment that from those 10 countries of the BRICS, it represents 35 or 40%. But China alone, just China, represents 25% of investment. So whether it be because currently the BRICS countries are an important part of us, and they're going to be more so, as is the case with China, and this is going to grow in our trade with them, but also in the aspect of investment. China, but not only China, are also investing. A third area besides foreign investment is the question of that when there are relations between countries, it's not only trade, not only investment, they also look at economic cooperation, for example. They look at defense questions. In this regard, we have traditional ties with Russia, for example, and with other countries. So I think that there is a need, a great need for Peru to first be interested in the BRICS because it's an important part of our foreign relations and trade, on investment, on economic cooperation and defense issues, but also because we have many other issues to explore together. We have here the Asian Center, Asian Studies Center. We focus on Asia, of course, but there's also the need to be more and more interested in Central Asia and the Middle East, which there are various countries from this region that are in the BRICS. So in conclusion, I say this is a region that we should be paying more and more attention. I thought it very interesting to see, for example, that in Brazil and Russia, there are already research institutes that are looking at the BRICS in particular, and I hope that Peru can do the same. I would like to conclude again expressing my great appreciation to the Russian Embassy for having proposed this meeting, what has been carried out with our support here at the university, and of course, when I say SEAS, this is the Asian Studies Center, which is relatively new here at the university, only since 2018. So far, there's only 2 of us. Marcela Ramos, I don't know if she's here. She's done everything, I've got to say. My great appreciation to Marcela Ramos, because it's through her that we have seen this grow with a group of volunteers. We don't have a lot of resources because unfortunately the state does not provide resources for the universities, how different it is in other countries like Russia, China, Brazil, just to mention 3 where the public universities do receive substantial money for investment. But I am very happy, and I invite you to visit the web page, Facebook page, the Twitter, Instagram. We do all of this to learn more about the different activities that we carry out in the Asian Studies Center. And I hope that this will be the first such event that we carry out about this extremely important group, which over the coming years will be a greater actor on the world stage. Thank you very much.
Muchísimas gracias al
Thank
profesor
you
Carlos
very
Aquino
much,
por su participación.
Professor Carlos Aquino, for his remarks. We continue with Mr. Walter Heredia, which is a representative in Peru of the organizing committee of the Municipal Forum, BRICS Plus.
Muy buenos días.
Good afternoon.
Quiero expresar mi agradecimiento.
I would like to express my appreciation to the ambassador of the Russian Federation has carried out this important initiative of inviting the other BRICS ambassadors, because this is a very important day for our country, for us to get to know what BRICS is. I would also like to especially appreciate the activities of the Chancellor of the University of San Marcos and all the professors and students who are present. And I would like to say that I am from San Marcos. This is my alma mater. And after 40 years, I am returning here to share with you what the BRICS is, which I think this is a very important matter. First, I would like to explain what is the International Forum of Municipalities of BRICS Plus. This was established in the great platform of the BRICS countries. We had our first conference in 2020 in Russia. The purpose of this forum is very simple but very clear: to help all citizens have solutions to the problems of their daily lives, working in particular with the municipalities, with the regional governments. And that's why the International Forum of Municipalities of the BRICS work with the organizations of civil society on a public-private relationship to attract projects, investments, to improve the quality of life where we are working. In 2002, the International Committee of this International Forum, BRICS,
me designó y tengo el honor de representar al Perú en este foro BRICS.
I'm honored to be able to represent Peru in this international forum. This space has allowed me to travel across the country over the last number of years, invited by municipalities, chambers of commerce, universities, and I have been able to go to the south of Peru. In fact, I live in Madre de Dios. I've also been invited to chambers of commerce and tourism from the center of Peru and from the north as well. And my remarks are going to center on sharing with you what it is that Peruvians of the interior of the country have in terms of their expectations regarding the BRICS. The BRICS is not only a platform of these great emerging economies, but also because we have historical roots of connections with Russia, with China, with Brazil, and with other countries of this great alliance as well. Today, the BRICS has established itself as a unified group, as a joint platform. In these regions, they are considered a hope for the future. And I have heard people in these regions talk about this. And there are a few lessons that I'm going to share with you. The first lesson is, if you could please put up the next slide, is
nosotros No podemos
is that we
hoy día
cannot today
dejar de entender a cabalidad
not
qué
fail
es
to
el BRICS y
understand
qué representa para el
what the
Perú
BRICS
y
is and
para
what
el
it
mundo.
represents for Peru and the world.
No comprender
To
lo que
not
es el BRICS
understand what the BRICS
es no comprender
is to not
lo que
understand
viene para nuestras vidas, para los
what is
jóvenes,
coming in terms
hoy
of
en
our
el
lives
presente y en el futuro.
for the youth in the
El
present and in the
BRICS no
future.
solamente es un gigante económico que
BRICS
marcha
is
por el
not
planeta
only an
hace
economic
varios
giant,
años,
which has been
es
marching
también
on the
un
planet for
coloso
years, but it's
social,
also a social
cultural,
colossus,
político.
culturally,
Si bien la
economically,
dimensión
politically.
económica es la que predomina y de la
It's
cual
true that
todos
the
hablamos,
economic aspect is
pero el
what
BRICS
dominates, but
tiene
the
como
BRICS
trasfondo una propuesta
has in its
cultural,
has a
social, para
social,
construir hoy en
cultural
día
proposal as well
lo que ya
to
está en camino, este
build what
mundo
is already
multipolar.
underway, which is a multipolar world.
Por eso es fundamental que nosotros
That's why
tomemos una decisión
it's
como
important that
peruanos,
we
como país.
make a
Nos quedan dos
decision as
alternativas.
Peruvians, as a country. We have two
O
choices.
entendemos a cabalidad
Either we understand
qué es el
fully
BRICS
what the BRICS is,
y nos sumamos a esta
and
nueva
we
etapa
join
histórica de
this
humanidad,
new historic
y somos
stage
una
of
nación
humanity,
que
and we
tiene un
become
rol
a nation
activo,
which has
protagónico
an
en
active
esta
role,
nueva fase
a leading
de la
role in this
historia,
new phase of history,
o
or
lo ignoramos, miramos
we
al costado y seremos
ignore it,
entonces parte
look
de los
aside,
actores
and
de
we
las
will
naciones
be part
anónimas,
of the
rezagadas y
anonymous
relegantes
countries
en
that
esta
are
nueva
left
fase.
aside, that
Esa es
are
la decisión que
marginalized in
nosotros
this
tenemos
next
que
step
tomar
in history. That's the
hoy.
decision we have to
Segunda,
make
por favor,
today. Second slide, please.
Por eso mismo, es imperativo saber
Therefore, it's also
cómo
imperative
acceder a las oportunidades y
to
beneficios del
know
BRICS.
how to take advantage of the
Los
opportunities
distinguidos
provided by BRICS.
panelistas que me han
The
antecedido
distinguished
han explicado con
panelists
claridad
who
todo
spoke
lo que
before me
representa
have
el BRICS en
explained
diferentes
clearly
campos
what the BRICS means in
de la
different
vida.
areas of
Muy bien,
life.
¿cuál es el reto para nosotros? Es cómo podemos acceder
The
al
question for
BRICS.
us is how can we gain access
Estamos en la
to the
universidad.
BRICS? We're at the
Yo quiero
university,
decir con claridad,
and I want to say
hoy,
clearly today,
nada de lo que está pasando y estará en
nothing
el
of
mundo
what is happening and will happen
puede
in the
ser
world
hecho y no
can
tenga
be
como
accomplished
antecedente y referente
if it does not
los
take as an
logros de los
antecedent
países
the
BRICS en el
achievements of the
campo de la
BRICS
ciencia,
countries
en el
in
campo
the
de la
fields of
tecnología,
science, of
en lo que es el
technology,
desarrollo económico,
of economic
en lo que es la
development,
conectividad, en lo que es la
connectivity,
infraestructura, en lo que es la parte
infrastructure,
social, de
social
salud,
aspects,
y
health,
la parte ambiental. Es una
environmental
agenda
issues, which
mundial.
is a world agenda.
Entonces, es una necesidad
So it is a necessity,
imperativa
it's an
que nuestros
imperative
líderes
necessity that
en las
our
regiones, en
leaders
los
in our
municipios,
regions, in the
los líderes
municipalities,
académicos.
our academic leaders,
Saludo a, bueno, la
and I
doctora estuvo
greet
acá, saludo que ella ha tenido esta gran
Don
iniciativa
Arturo
de
was
respaldar
here,
este
and
evento,
so
pero los líderes
appreciate
académicos,
he
los
has
líderes
sponsored this event.
sociales,
But the academic
culturales
leaders, the
y
social leaders, the
también
cultural
los
leaders,
políticos
and also the political leaders
tienen que tener la
have to
información
be
y el
informed
compromiso
and have a
para
commitment
aprovechar esta
to
oportunidad
take advantage of
y
this
conocer de
opportunity
manera técnica, de manera
and
operativa,
get to
cómo acceder
know
a estos beneficios.
how to take
La tercera
access to these
lección que
opportunities
yo
in an
he aprendido
operational,
recorriendo
technical
nuestro
way.
país, ¿verdad?
My third recommendation, which is what I've learned by traveling the country, has to do with
El Perú ha vivido muchos años con distintos tipos de
Peru
cooperación,
has
pero la
had
cooperación
different
del BRICS, del Foro
forms of
Internacional
cooperation,
de los Municipios BRICS establece
but
en su carta
the
fundacional
BRICS
que
and
se basa en
its
tres
international
principios.
form of municipalities
Primero,
establishes
la no
certain principles.
injerencia,
First,
la
non-interference,
no injerencia respeto a la soberanía
not
de los pueblos,
interference in the
la igualdad
sovereignty of
y el beneficio
countries,
mutuo.
equality
La
and mutual
cooperación
benefit,
que nos puede brindar hoy
cooperation,
el grupo
which
BRICS es
we
una
can get
cooperación,
in the
por lo
BRICS,
tanto,
is cooperation,
innovadora,
therefore, which is
proactiva,
innovative,
promotora del
which
emprendimiento mutuo,
promotes
de la inversión
mutual
y la ganancia conjunta.
opportunities
No
and
solamente
mutual profit,
económica, esto
not
hay que
only
destacarlo,
economically.
sino también
I need to
impulsora de un
emphasize
cambio
this.
social y
We are
cultural.
talking about social and cultural
No es
changes
una
as well.
cooperación que
This is
promueve el
not
paternalismo, el
cooperation which
asistencialismo, la
promotes
dependencia.
dependence or
Es una
paternalism.
cooperación donde nosotros como país
It's
ponemos,
cooperation
los
which
países BRICS
we,
ponen.
as the
Ambos invertimos,
countries,
ambos
would
ganamos. Una cooperación
cooperate
que
with the
promueve
BRICS. We
el
benefit, they benefit.
emprendedurismo. La cuarta lección
The fourth lesson
es que, por favor, adelante
is
la siguiente,
that, if you could place the new slide up,
es que escuchando las voces de nuestras
listening
regiones,
to the voices
todos
of people
sabemos
in
que
our
uno de los
countries,
males
in our
endémicos
regions,
de
we
nuestro
know
país
one of the
es el
endemic
centralismo.
problems in our country is centralism. Lima decides everything for the regions without knowing their conditions locally. The BRICS allows us a different kind of opportunity to hear the voices of the regions. And what does that mean? That the mayors, the municipalities, the businessmen from these regions in the south, the north, and the center of the country are always thinking about how to take advantage of cooperation with the BRICS to use it locally and use it strategically. We need to work, we use with a intelligent view of specialization in the country. What does that mean? Apply to each of our strategic economic chains, technological innovation, take advantage of knowledge of science and technology that the BRICS share. Brazil, it's an Amazon country like us. They have developed these for their own capabilities in production, tourism, services. Work with clusters of services, clusters of logistics, industrial clusters. I live in Madre de Dios. Madre de Dios today, with the port of Chancay, is going to give great value to the bioceanic corridor. Oh, I have Acre at our side and Panova at our side. We can be a cluster of services. We're not going to be able to compete with Brazilian industry, but we can compete as a cluster. Not compete, but complement them, having a cluster of logistical and service capabilities. We could talk at that at length. So we are cooperating with the authorities in Panova and Acre in that regard. A moment ago, the ambassador of Brazil was here. We've had meetings with the Chamber of Commerce with them. But that's the idea. We have to be ready for this. The BRICS cooperation is there to be had. But if we are not clear on our view of development and what we want to do with this new opportunity, which history is providing us, we are going to be bypassed by this moment. Then there's cooperation on the energy matrix. The BRICS have alternative energy. There's infrastructure in transportation. And the BRICS Bank, as others have said, has as a priority investing in everything in the field of infrastructure, water resources. That's important. We're a country with regions that aren't connected. Chancay is going to change the infrastructure and economic history of Peru. In a few weeks, it is going to change the economic history, the trade history of Peru, but not just Peru, but of Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay also. All of Latin America will benefit from the Chancay port. But if we, our leaders at the university, at political and business leaders, if we're not prepared for this, we'll miss this great opportunity. And that's what I wanted to share with you with what I've heard from people in our regions. The fifth lesson is, how will we take advantage of this? That's why we have established what we call the BRICS Forum of Peru. This is a forum which wishes to contribute to Peru becoming the strategic platform to promote cooperation between Peru and the BRICS nations. We want to be a kind of hinge to pull together the opportunities that come from the BRICS and bring that to the services needed of our region and our country. We want to work for this with the universities. I'm from San Marcos. I'm sorry, the chancellor who's not here, but for you professors, I think we should have a meeting to see how BRICS can work with my alma mater here, San Marcos, and how we can promote this. But also with businessmen, the thousands, the millions of business leaders, and of course, with the social organizations as well. So our mission is to turn Peru, to make it become a geostrategic nodal point for cooperation, a multipolar synergetic cooperation with the BRICS countries. How? By promoting innovative programs and development in science, technology, economics, infrastructure, culture, and so on, with a clear vision that we have to have a national project and a sovereign project, linking us with the world, but with our own identity as Peru. It's not a matter of joining a big wave of others and lose our identity. If BRICS is great, it's because Russia, India, China are based with their great accomplishments. They have great civilizations. India, China, the Arab countries, Russia have in their history had great civilizations which have allowed their people in a period of 40 years. China has made a great leap economically. It has lifted 800 million poor people into middle-class people. They have great businesses on a world scale. Why? Because Chinese culture is strong. We should not forget our roots. Peru is as diverse and as strong in culture as India and China. So we should not feel submissive before this. This will open a new chapter of history. I will briefly finish. I'm presenting here some of the opportunities which the BRICS provide economically, but this has already been explained. But we are talking about cooperatives, associations of producers, medium businesses, but also large ones will have opportunities in emerging markets in terms of technology and know-how. We can diversify relations with the Amazon region and have better access to investment. And in the academic field, we have an enormous number of opportunities. I have been a director in the Amazon studies in the university in Madre de Dios. We've got 2 agreements, one with the great St. Petersburg University in Moscow, and 2 agreements with our neighbor Brazil as well. I don't know if San Marcos has that. I don't know if the Catholic University has, but our university in Madre de Dios has done that. So we can have agreements with these centers at the highest scientific and technological level for scholarships, have joint projects of innovation, and so on. Today, that is possible and feasible, and we, as the BRICS Forum, want to facilitate that and accelerate it. In the 7th lesson and last one is to make access to these opportunities possible. That's what we're here to do. That is my mission, which I've been in charge with for the last 3 years. On a voluntary basis, ad honorem, I come here wearing a t-shirt saying Peru. And just like me, there are players in every region that want to be volunteers for BRICS. And I want the youth who are here today to become volunteers for BRICS to also stand up, because of them, we're able to make all of this a reality. Thank you very much, Teresa, Gabriel, Carmen, Josefina, who are here. I'll go to the center, to the jungle, speak to the youth, and they ask me, we want to be volunteers. We want our region to have access scientifically, academically, or technology with the BRICS. Those are the services which we are offering, as you can see, to encourage and facilitate relations with universities and other enterprises, and to participate in forums and conferences, and to have trips. We brought recently one of the most important companies in Russia here to come to Peru. They held a great forum in Moscow, and they want to purchase our cocoa, our cacao bean. There's a crisis in Africa, and so we can sell this. There's other things that we can do, carry out workshops, consulting with cooperation with institutions and universities, have access to markets, reach agreements, and innovation and technology. Finally, all of this is based on what we call citizens diplomacy. Starting with the COVID crisis, this idea arose everywhere in the world. That means that diplomacy should not be limited to states and governments. diplomacy should have an active role played by citizens, by the man on the street, by the man with a machete who's in the countryside, the man in the workshop, the man with on the sea, and that they all help us organize policies of international relations. Why should we leave it in the hands of the governments? Leave the diplomacy to them. Why, when we can all be active participants to build new relations? And today, the BRICS is, Peru is not officially part of the BRICS. We hope that our government, our respected honorable politicians take Peru into the BRICS, but it has to be we, the people, the citizens of Peru. We have to promote that our country should officially become a member of the BRICS. That is the great challenge, the great task that I leave you with.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Gracias, señor embajador.
Ok, muchas gracias al señor Walter
Thank you
Heredia.
very much, Mr. Walter Heredia. And now we ask Engineer Luis Ernesto Vázquez Medina, who is an economic analyst of Executive Intelligence Review, and he is from the San Marcos Foundation. A round of applause, please.
Buenas tardes ya.
Good afternoon now, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to thank the organizers of this dialogue, which is truly essential because we are deliberating at a moment when humanity is facing a really serious problem. It's in a change of an era where, beyond the dangers which we've heard about of total confrontation, including the possibilities of the end of our very species, we are also before the possibility of new hopes, new expectations for our humanity. And this inflection point, this change in era of humanity, presents us these two alternatives. Unquestionably, we have to raise our voices, we have to mobilize ourselves so that the dangers that we face, especially from war, be eliminated, and that solutions, peaceful solutions, be achieved for the world conflicts. But we also have to begin to discuss how to establish the mechanisms and the forms under which this new emerging world, as a replacement of this bygone era, what methods we can apply to make for all of humanity a new era of progress, development, and shared welfare among nations.
Los BRICS
The BRICS are, in fact, the beginning of this new era, an era of shared welfare, when after so long we will be able to eliminate colonialism as the central rule, the dominant rule in the world, which continues to try to perpetuate itself. I'm talking about globalism. The BRICS are a hope for those nations, especially who have suffered through this era of humanity, which is now sinking as a result of its internal flaws and failures due to its defects, its rules, which fundamentally promote subjecting nations and populations to conditions of poverty in order to defend the interests of a financial elite, of an international financial elite. This world, which is collapsing, has to open the way, and we have to help with these types of conferences to help shape and to give life to this new era. That is why I, first of all, want to congratulate the initiative of the Russian Embassy, congratulate the Chancellor of the University of San Marcos, and congratulate the Schiller Institute for having been the promoters of this first meeting in our country, where we have brought together the main actors or spokesmen of the main countries that are the actors in this new international order. What does this bring us, which is different from the old oligarchical order? What does this new order of the BRICS based on the general welfare? It, above all, brings us the possibility that our countries, and we're beginning to live through this already in our country, a country which for a long time, for almost 5 years, has not achieved development. It brings us the possibility that of beginning to pose new situations where the economy, the general welfare of its population, will allow us to resolve the great problems of extreme poverty, which we have had for a long time. And the possibilities of development that the BRICS provide can be noted in two areas in particular. First, this possibility of establishing, as is already occurring, a new physical infrastructure structure to have economies that are viable, that will allow us to have economic development based on higher and growing productivity and real production. And secondly, the alternative which the BRICS is providing, and in this academic discussion which we're carrying this out today shows it, we have to begin to discuss the aspects having to do of science and development of new technologies that, based on increasing productivity and production of all of the countries, will allow us to resolve the internal conflicts in every country and the external conflicts among countries. Only a world in which all of its members, as the Belt and Road Initiative states clearly, as China promotes, which is one of the partners of the BRICS, only a world in which those benefits will be shared. Only in that way can we have peace and development. So we are entering such an area, a golden era for humanity. Of course, if we solve the problems which this change in the international situation brings with it. I would like to just give you a few examples of how The world is already changing, despite the fact that institutionally the BRICS are really just beginning. We don't have a whole financial structure or a monetary structure. I will leave that point to the end to talk about that, but we are already seeing new forms of productive investment that the West has never provided us. The case of Africa, which we saw in an earlier presentation, where they have built cities, railroads, ports, a continent which received only poverty and slavery over its entire modern history, is now receiving for the first time from the outside world, from the BRICS. They're receiving real help to become nations that can sustain their own development and produce the general welfare of their citizens. Africa is building new cities, intelligent cities. Even the Europeans will be green with envy over these cities. They've built thousands of kilometers of railroads, they've built ports, intelligent cities, and so on, with help basically from the People's Republic of China. A railroad was just inaugurated, a high-speed railroad in Africa, which incredibly, even the Americans, which don't have a fast train themselves, they will be envious of this. This is being done in Africa, and in Latin America we can do this. In fact, I think even more rapidly. We have to only join this great change which is underway for humanity. The first great projects, and I will mention the case here of the port of Chancay. These projects allow us to foresee an entirely new future for our country. This is very exciting to see the population that will be directly affected by this, and this excitement will undoubtedly grow in all regions of the country and across the continent when the port is completed, when a new logistical hub is functioning, when we will be able to export and import merchandise from the rest of the world in an easier way, in a cheaper way. And on terms which were much more favorable for our country. Chancay is about to be inaugurated next month. Next year it will be running at full capacity, and it will be, along with the port of Callao, an axis of development which must be connected. It must be connected with the rest of South America. For that reason, we need to get the financing that is available for Bioceanic Railroad, which sources, unlike the financing conditions available in the West, will be helpful for productive investments and which increase the general productivity of our economy.
Chancay y las posibilidades de establecer rutas.
Chancay and the possibility of establishing transcontinental railroads, new cities in the east of the country, in the foothills of the Andes throughout all of South America, from north to south, Ecuador, Colombia, Peru, the entire southern area of Peru, Bolivia, Brazil, build new cities. These will emerge when we establish this network, which we are initiating with the Port of Chancay and with the logistical hub, which will be established, which will provide a new productive economic dynamic. The BRICS are going to have a meeting at the end of the month in Kazan, Russia, where there have already been a number of proposals internationally, comments among international analysts who are calling for a discussion there of the fundamental aspect of this, which has to do with the monetary and financial aspect. This is extremely important. There cannot be development or productive development. There can't be productive investment. Savings cannot be converted to productive investment if there is not a change, and it is necessary to carry this out in the financial, banking, and monetary features of the current world system. Today, just look where we are today. The dollar is not only a fiat currency, which has no connection to the real value of the economy. It is currency which is freely issued, which imposes its speculative mark on the entire world economy. All of the agreements of Bretton Woods have been broken, agreements which establish that the dollar, which is the world currency for trade and savings, was based on the gold reserve currency. That was ended in 1971, pretty much unilaterally, when the agreement of Bretton Woods was one which was a multinational agreement. That was changed, so too was the whole approach of fixed exchange rate of the 1970s. And from that time forward, the dollar was used as a currency, as an instrument for manipulation, not only in trade, market control, but also an instrument of political manipulation. To the degree that currently, as I said at the outset, the dollar is not only a fiat currency with no basis in the physical economy, it is also an economic weapon, and that must be said. Based on the sanctions, capital flight, all of this would disappear if we return to a system which lasted from 1946 to 1971 of fixed exchange rates. This would disappear. So would the possibility of capital flight or dollar flight. But through that way, governments have been overthrown. Systems have been established in which, based on the manipulation carried out by the large international banks, they were able to not only manipulate countries economically, but also topple governments, put new governments in office, depending on their interests and their appetites. We have to put an end to this situation. I hope that in Kazan, the leaders of the BRICS will think about and start to discuss what is already under discussion by specialists, what is already being called for by a number of international entities that study this matter. The BRICS must start to reestablish, at the very least, the monetary and financial forms that were established in the Bretton Woods system of 1946. That is to say, reestablish a new kind of currency that will allow for the possibility of not be subject to quantitative easing and just pure issuance of money, and that instead it be linked to real production, as opposed to what we have today, which is pure speculation. The changes that were made from 1991 forward on monetary and financial deregulation, we have currently a financial bubble of $2.1 quadrillion. That's pure paper debt, pure derivatives, pure secondary paper that many call capital, but in reality are simply obligations of the debts that fall on the shoulders of nations and on their peoples. This new monetary structure, which must be established to be able to continue with the program of the Belt and Road Initiative, the new investments in production and new productive investments must also must not only establish a new relationship between the currency and real economic value. It could be a basket of currencies. It could be an agreement, such as the original Bretton Woods established, to establish a starting point which can then be adjusted bit by bit in the direction of to the degree to which countries rise or fall in their productivity and their production. A bank has to be established, as is already been considered according to the international press and international analysts, in which this bank will have two types of credit: short-term credit to maintain the fixed exchange rates among countries so that they can cover the balance of payments deficits and make sure the dollar does not fluctuate as it has been doing over recent years. Remember that here in Peru, we had, until the 1970s, we did have a certain amount of industrialization and progress, and that occurred across Latin America. But when this global framework changed, all of this simply ended. And the other kind of credit that has to be established, and which unfortunately the Bretton Woods system did not have, is to establish a bank for real development. An international development bank is what Linda LaRouche called it, a bank which will permit precisely the realization of these infrastructure projects and the realization of these expenditures that are necessary on science and technology, on R&D, that will allow for the continuous increase of the productivity and the production of our countries. Such credit has to be long-term credit at low interest rates that will allow us to build the highways, the railroads, that don't produce immediate profits from one year to the next, They take some time, but they produce benefits which can't even be accounted for in the project itself, but which have repercussions across the economy by increasing the production for others. Such credit, which finances, in other words, the increases in general productivity. I would like to conclude, again, congratulating the organizers of this event, congratulate all of those who have participated. There are many of you, and you express the hope that our population in general has about this new situation, this very dramatic situation facing the world, but it's also so hopeful in terms of what we can achieve. The Schiller Institute and our international magazine, the Executive Intelligence Review, are committed to spreading all of these projects, proposals, projects to achieve the kind of world which we have begun to see with the BRICS and the BRICS Plus, which has begun to be established with China's Belt and Road Initiative, which in fact is the same concept, which we now see in more countries of the BRICS. I would like to say to you finally that we, as a country which at this point suffers great crises, and which, in fact, some people might even talk about violence, urban violence, all the problems that we exist on a daily basis in terms of inflation, problems with food, that real hunger, that the third of the population of Peru eats every other day only. The leaders of this country have to start to see the possibilities which all of the other speakers have expressed, which the BRICS can provide to us at this time. I conclude saying that the BRICS is the answer, the full solution, answer to that evil geopolitician, Henry Kissinger, who said on one occasion that history is not made in the South. For the first time, after many, many years, history will be made in the South. Let's go forward with the BRICS. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias al ingeniero
Thank you
Luis
very
Vázquez
much,
por su participación.
Engineer Luis Vázquez.
Bueno, ya como cierre de este
So
evento,
now, to close off this event,
estimadas autoridades,
I
panelistas,
address you,
público asistente.
authorities,
Para mí,
public panelists, for me,
estudios de Asia Oriental y Medio Oriente,
as a
así como
teacher of
teorías del desarrollo, en esta misma
development
casa de estudio,
theory and
ha sido
Asian
un honor
studies
ser parte
here
de
at
este
this
foro,
university.
en el cual se han podido
I'm
analizar
honored to be
las
part of
dinámicas de
this forum, to be able to look at the
desarrollo y
dynamic
cooperación
process of
tan
development and
representadas
how
y
the
las
world
cuales
order is
BRICS
being reshaped and
emergen como
in which the
actores
BRICS emerge as protagonists.
visto, el
As we
crecimiento
have
económico
seen,
sostenido de este bloque en las
the
últimas
economic
décadas
growth of
ha
this
sido
bloc over
notable.
recent
Sin
decades has been
embargo,
notable. However,
es igual crucial
it's
el
also
saber
crucial
profundizar en
to
determinados
be
factores
able
que han podido
to
impulsar este crecimiento
go
y en
into
los
depth
desafíos
on
que aún
what has
persisten
brought
para todos nosotros.
this possibility about and
Es
the
por ello
challenges we
que
still
para
face.
nosotros a
For
futuro
that
es importante, ¿no?
reason, as a challenge to
el
the
manejo
future,
temático de determinadas áreas como
the
son la
discussion of
infraestructura,
various
la
areas,
innovación tecnológica,
inflation, technological innovation,
sostenibilidad, la
sustainability,
gobernanza y, por qué
governance,
no, también las
and why
tecnologías de
not
fronteras como la
also
inteligencia artificial que
advanced
últimamente está
technologies, artificial
hablando.
intelligence, which many
En
are
el
talking
contexto de
about.
los BRICS, para
All of
ver
this in the
cómo es
context of the
que
BRICS. How is
estos
it that
bloques también pueden
these
potenciar el
blocks can
desarrollo de cada una de
also
estas áreas
help
para
our
beneficio
development in each of these areas for the benefit of the world. On the other hand, it is also very important to involve youth. And therefore, gives me great pleasure that after this long but very interesting session that we have had today, that there are many students, many youth from this university and from others from Peru that have participated with great excitement and getting interested in expanding their knowledge of this multipolar world. I hope that in the future, some of these, or perhaps many of them, will become experts in China, and India, and Brazil, South Africa, Russia, or in general, on experts in the BRICS bloc in general. There is the relevance of this event. We hope this has been of interest to you, but we also hope it's been an inspiration to many of you as well. That is our hope as we bring this session to a conclusion.
Shopify helps you sell at every stage of your business. Like that, let's put it online and see what happens stage.
And the site is live.
That we opened a store and need a fast checkout stage.
Thanks, you're all set.
That count it up and ship it around the globe stage.
This one's going to Thailand.
And that